As the 2020 Major League Baseball season finally gets set for its first pitch, there's kind of been the question posed. If you win a championship in a shortened 60-game season, is it devalued? Well, we'll leave that to the experts. Tonight, we know this. If you win a fantasy baseball championship, it counts. In fact, if you win in this league tonight, the NFBC Super League Sprint, it really counts. We welcome you to our exclusive coverage here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio of the National Fantasy Baseball Championship Super League Sprint. I am Kyle Elfrink. With me for the next few hours, we have Howard Bender of the Fantasy Alarm, and from Fantasy Guru Elite, Mr. Ray Flowers. And tonight, gentlemen, it's a biggie. Howard, the money that these folks are putting down, it's something that stands out tonight for 60 games of fantasy baseball excitement. These guys are going to be forking over a $2,500 entry fee to be in this league,
which is actually half of what they usually put in, apparently, is what I'm told. So the sprint, the partial season here means partial payment. So they've cut it in half. Still, $2,500. That's definitely more than what I would want to put on a season of 60 games.
Yeah, just 60 games. And Ray, as we know, we're hopefully just a few days away from the start of the season. We're planning on 60 games, but there are so many unknowns. Like with every pick that will be made in that room tonight from any of the 15 owners, there's going to be the question, will this guy make it through the season? Will he make it through the month? Am I going to get stung by a positive result, an infection, whatever it may be? There is just loads of uncertainty still as we get set for this year.
Absolutely. And in the NFBC, where trading is not allowed, the working the waiver wire is going to be huge because there are going to have to be moves made that were unexpected. There's going to have to be quick decisions made on players that were drafted, on players that are on the waiver wire. It's going to be a topsy-turvy season. Everyone's going to do the best they can, but it's going to take a lot of management to win in 2020.
Let's get you some of the specifics for this NFBC Super League Sprint. First off, we have 15 participants. All of them have put in $2,500. First place getting $20,000. So 2 months from now, you can turn $2,500 into $20,000. That's a fairly good return. Second place getting $7,500, $5,000 going to third place. And the other 12 owners will walk away with a $2,500 loss. In terms of the rounds, 30 rounds, couple of catchers, all the infield spots, middle infield, corner infield, 5 outfielders, a DH, 9 pitchers, and 7 bench rounds. 20 games to qualify at a position. Although, Howard, in season, you only have to play 4 games at a new position to get that qualification. So that's a lot easier this year than it's been in many other seasons.
Yeah, listen, you have to make all of these adjustments. And I mean, I think this is really what we're here to talk about, what we're here to look at. There are still home leagues who have yet to draft that they're looking at, what possible changes they might be making. And, it's kind of funny when you're sitting down, you're looking at your league rules. There are certain things that you tend to overlook, you forget about, you take for granted that it's just, it is what it is. So to know that, you take a 20 game or a 15 game eligibility for in season and you chop that down to 4 games, it makes it a big difference here as far as certain guys. There are certain deep players who might just get that extra position eligibility that you need. And to have one of those type of players, like let's just say, for example, just Howie Kendrick right now, he qualifies everywhere. But there are certain guys who are planning on being moved around all over the place. I know Austin Nola of the Seattle Mariners. He's going to be serving as a catcher. He's platooning at catcher, but they've already talked about the fact that he's going to play second. He's going to play third. They're going to throw him out into the outfield, and having a guy like that on your bench might actually be exactly what you need this season.
As you can tell, the draft has begun. As you can also tell, there are no names associated with the teams. It's Team 1, it's Team 5, it's Team 10. What we've got here are 15 guys who are really protective of their strategies. They don't want people seeing who is making those picks and who they are and what kind of strategy they're putting to use. We should note, as we watch this first round fill up, the draft positioning was determined by the KDS, the Kentucky Derby style system of draft positioning, where they draw a ball out. Somebody then gets to choose where they want to select in the draft. So all of these owners It was kind of luck of the draw. They did this drawing just 15, 20 minutes ago, and then they found out where they would be drafting in the first round as well as all subsequent rounds. And here we are, guys. We're off and running. And I will say one change that we've had here today in the third week of July versus maybe what would have happened in the third week of March. Ray, we're not seeing Mike Trout in the first pick. We're not seeing him in the second pick, the third pick. In fact, Ray, 14th overall. Mike Trout, all the way down to number 14, Acuna, Yelich, Betts. Then we got some pitchers. You see Bellinger, you see Ramirez, Turner, Story, Lindor. Mike Trout, number 14. I don't know if we've seen that since his rookie season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we haven't, Kyle. And obviously, you can make the argument that that's waiting too long. I think you can make the argument it's still taking him too early, which is the fascinating piece here with Mike Trout. You know, we've heard all the reports about how he's going to step away when his wife gives birth and how long is that going to be? How much of an impact is that going to be? If it's 2 weeks and the season's 10 weeks long, it's 20% of the season. So I don't know how you let Trout go. You know, if you're putting a team together and he's sitting there that late in the first round, I don't know how you let him go. But at the same time, there's got to be some concern that you might get burned and lose 20% of the season there.
You know what's crazy about that, Howard, is Team 14. That is David Einhorn. David Einhorn's the defending champ in this league. How about the idea if you're the defending champ, you get the 14th pick, you're like, gosh, who's even going to be there? And you still get Mike Trout as the defending champ with the 14th overall selection.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. You know, here's the thing is that, you know, we're all expecting Mike Trout to take off and leave when his wife's giving birth. You know, the funny thing is that he's been so on the fence about not opting out of this season that the question is he actually going to miss time, and how much time is he going to miss? Could he miss 3 days? Could he miss 4 or 5 days? I mean, that's the thing. This isn't like the NBA where they're playing in a bubble and people who are in and out of the quarantine bubble have to sit and wait 14 days in order to make that happen. Trout could actually only miss about 3 games. And I think everybody was just kind of freaking out about that whole thing. But I mean, listen, I'll knock wood and just say I hope everything goes beautifully with his wife, nice and smooth, because I honestly believe that he's got such a sense of obligation to MLB, being the face of Major League Baseball right now, that he doesn't want to miss a significant chunk of time. So to lose maybe 3 days, 4 days out of the season and still get Mike Trout at the 14th pick overall, I'd buy that. Absolutely.
Yeah. First 20 picks are in. There's going to be a total of 450 picks, but 20 are in, and you can see the first round. The Trout surprise is there. Another thing, Ray, that people may be looking at saying, that's a little different. We see 5 pitchers, all starters, of course, going in the first 13 picks. Traditionally, we should note the NFBC, and certainly in this Super League sprint, traditionally, they have invested early in stud pitchers. We were wondering, though, if that tradition would carry over to a season like this.
We were, because you can obviously make the arguments about, if you miss one start, it has a disproportionate negative effect. How much consideration can you give for the win column actually going in your direction? Maybe someone goes 2-5 this year when they pitch well. There's not that extra second half of games to have kind of things even out. And then there's just the volatility that comes with the ratio categories at times, especially that ERA one. So, interesting to see that we basically saw the traditional NFBC drafting with pitchers there. And we even saw Team 13 double up with teammates. Yeah. And I don't know about that one. In this COVID era and everything with what we're dealing with 60 games, that to me seems incredibly risky.
Yeah, that's Jody Ryan there in the 13 spot. Went Clevenger at 13, and then he comes back around in the second round. So this would be pick number 18. And Howard, as Ray noted, Shane Bieber. So a couple of Indians. We also should note Team 10 on this chart, Eddie Gillis. Eddie Gillis also went with back-to-back pitchers in the first 2 rounds. He goes Scherzer and Jack Flaherty.
I think, listen, the 2-pitcher thing, obviously Ray just cleared all that up. If a guy goes out there and he throws 2 1/3 and he gives up 7 earned runs, it takes a while for that to kind of be leveled off. That's pretty damaging. Ray brings up an interesting point, though, as far as the stacking goes and using Clevenger and Bieber in the same. So the question is, if there is a COVID outbreak at Cleveland, both these guys could end up missing time, could be back at the same schedule, could be off the same schedule. So, I mean, there's a definite risk there as well, because, I mean, we've had numerous conversations about strategy and stacking and which players you're looking to use. And, everybody points towards, the central divisions and the way the schedule has been set up. Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Minnesota, Cleveland, these teams all definitely have a nice advantage based on the way the schedule was all laid out. And obviously the opponents, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Detroit, they're all just, god-awful teams. So the question is do you take that risk and you stack from a team because they've got a nice cushy schedule and pretty easy opponents, or do you worry that much about the COVID outbreak and say, well, I'm going to lose my entire rotation if I end up doing that?
Yeah, it's a certain risk and reward strategy. And again, Jody Ryan making that move, a couple of Indian pitchers at picks 1 and 2 on his team. The first round, as noted, totally done. 15 picks. They went off very quickly. Ronald Acuna at 1. Yelich goes to Mookie Betts landing at 3. Then we see our first pitcher, Garrett Cole, going to Mark Perlmutter. He takes Garrett Cole at number 4, followed by Cody Bellinger. Jake DeGrom does sneak into the first round. There are some concerns about a back issue that he is dealing with. He claims he's fine, but we shall see if he holds up. There is still some question about opening day even for Jake DeGrom. Trey Turner goes 7. Justin Verlander, the veteran, still pulling off a first-round value. He goes 8th, followed by Jose Ramirez, Max Scherzer at 10. A couple of shortstops back-to-back, Story and Lindor. Then Clevenger at 13. Yes, indeed, that's the name Mike Trout, sitting at number 14. The defending champ, David Einhorn, securing him. And then Juan Soto finishing up the first round. Second round is off and running, too. We're seeing a few more pitchers. We told you about Bieber and Flaherty. Steven Strasburg has been selected. That's the pick of Michael Mager. He has a tandem of Ramirez and Strasburg. And also Walker Buehler leading off the second round. There was the tag team pick on the turn. Soto at 15 and Walker Buehler then at 16. Scott Fleming making that selection. The draft board is filling up. Again, a 15-teamer, many spots to fill. In fact, 450 total picks as noted, and the pitching is starting to disappear. We've got a couple of owners with 2 pitchers. Most everyone else has 1 pitcher, although there is the tandem of hitters. You see Mookie Betts and J.D. Martinez. That's the 1-2 punch there going to Jason DuPont. You see Cody Bellinger teaming up with Alex Bregman. You see a Lindor Harper team up. How about the idea, guys, that Fernando Tatis Jr. Lands at the 17th pick? And again, that's David Einhorn who gets Trout. And then Howard, he follows it up with Tatis Jr. A couple of very high-end guys. I mean, there are questions about both. We talked about Trout, but even Tatis coming off that back issue of a year ago, everybody loves him. Everybody thinks he's going to be a star, but we got to get him through a quote-unquote full season to see him at his high point.
Yeah, I don't think that there are a lot of people who are overly concerned about the back issue. It's obviously something that you don't want in a player. Obviously, I think it's more concerning if the player is older. Being younger, who knows? Unless it's some sort of a degenerative condition that we haven't been made aware of, then I think the desire for stolen bases is going to trump the concerns about a back problem for Tatis, and I think that's what we're going to end up seeing and what we have been seeing as far as a number of these picks. It's the power speed combo guys that everybody's craving, and then when you move into that second round and you see Tatis go and you see Starling, it was Ketel Marte and Starling Marte back to back. People are going to start reaching for those stolen bases because this just isn't the year where you can really want to make up stolen bases with a one category wonder like a Malik Smith or a Billy Hamilton type, because they don't do anything else for the rest of the stat sheet, and they could end up pulling that batting average a little too far down.
And Ray, you touched on this. No trades are allowed over the entirety of this season. So you see a team like Joe Thielen, he was team 7, going with Trey Turner, who I think, in a 60-game season, I guess you're hoping for, 20 steals maybe. Maybe you get 20 steals from Trey Turner, but he follows that with Starling Marte, who a lot of people don't treat him as a great stolen base threat, but that's a pretty good 1-2 hit when we talk stolen bases, an early start there for Joe Thielen at 7.
Yeah, and we've it's been so long since we've really dove into this topic, but we know that this season everyone was looking at the stolen base category as the one that they were searching for on offense, and looking at power kind of being everywhere. And if you can find guys early in Turner and Marte who can contribute across the board, they're not big power guys, but they can hit 15 to 20 over a full season pretty easily. And both guys have the ability and the skills to maybe hit 300 as well. As Howard said, these are not one-trick ponies at all. They're very good performers, and it is a very impressive duo that early on to get speed from both the guys.
Let's run you through the second round. Buehler, Tatis Jr., then Shane Bieber, Harper, Arenado slipping to about the midway point of the second round here. A couple of pitchers going back-to-back, Jack Flaherty and Steven Strasburg, Lebar Torres, then a pair of Martes going back-to-back, Starling and Cattell, Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers, J.D. Martinez, Clayton Kershaw sneaking in at pick number 29, and then Jose Altuve rounding up the second round. You see him there at number 30. Gentlemen, any surprise there in the first 30 picks? Anything that stands out? Obviously, the Trout fall, if you will, to number 14, Howard, but anything else catch you there in the first two rounds?
No, I've been doing a number of things as far as, mock drafts and looking at older drafts. And no, this actually, this is really on par with everything that we have seen.
You've seen it all,
that
huh?
we've gone with. Well, I mean, listen, it's funny, the two big things are where's the starting pitching going to go? And where the closer is going to end up going. Like, those are the big questions. Those are, that's a lot of the movement that you've seen throughout this pandemic, where people have still been doing best ball drafts and still, maneuvering with their fantasy baseball teams, that, the position players are the position players, and that's the talent. The names who are up top, and it'll be interesting to see what happens deeper into this draft. What I'm looking at right now is how much are we investing in starting pitching early on, and then again, where the closers go. Once Josh Hader comes off the board here, then I'll perk up a little bit more.
Three things stand out to me. One, Walker Buehler going with the first pick in the second round. He's not going to be able to go 5 innings his first start. Doesn't sound like he's going to be able to go 5 innings his second start either. And again, if he's making 12 starts this year and 2 of them he has no chance to get a victory, a little surprising he went there. I mentioned, and Howard expounded on, the Clevenger-Bieber teammate thing. And we saw Team 11 go with Story and Arenado. In this environment, I'm not doing that. It's risky enough to do teammates and, whatever. But in this era, something goes through a clubhouse and half the team, it's just, to me, that's an incredibly risky move to make in the first 2 rounds of a draft. I just wouldn't be doing that this year.
We have 2 complete rounds in the books. We are just getting started with our coverage of the NFBC Super League Sprint. Kyle Elfrink along with Ray Flowers and Howard Bender. Third round, as you can see, is filling up. We'll take a timeout here for our radio folks on Twitter. If you're watching our draft, yes, it is available on Twitter. You'll continue to see the picks go off the board. You also will continue to hear the brilliance of both Ray Flowers and Howard Bender. They're going to keep talking about this draft and some of the things that we are seeing. Take a timeout here. We are back with more coming up next on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So there we go. Freeman. Yeah, that's an Acuna. There you go again, Ray. A couple of Atlanta guys, Acuna and Freeman on the same team.
Am I crazy to say that? I mean,
no, you're not crazy at all. I think it's a very valid point. I mean, I'm not gonna completely avoid it. I mean, right. Listen, I've got a number of drafts where I'm stacking, 2 of the 3 when I go with Suarez, Castellanos, and Moustakas. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've done that in a number of drafts. Could that bite me in the ass? Sure. But you know what? For a 60-game sprint, I mean, I guess it's, it's kind of, I wouldn't do it for $2,500. Well, right. Damn sure.
Like, if you could say, well, do you want Freddie Freeman or Javier Baez? Okay, personally, I'm taking Freeman. But, like Ray's bringing up, if you have Acuna, why not just take Baez? Spread the risk, if you will.
Well, Freeman's good to go, right? He's got the antibodies. He's
but I mean, the whole teammate thing. You avoid. I would have, especially early on. I mean, you get to a point in these drafts, 30 rounds in, you can't avoid it. But I think early on, you definitely want to avoid it.
Team 13, another pitcher, Josh Hader.
Wow, 3 pitchers to go. Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
pretty wild. There's your reliever. You can perk up now, Howard.
They go 3rd round. Let's get nuts.
Whoa.
Wild.
That is pretty wild. Hader.
Like, isn't Hader going to be there in the 4th round?
He'll be there in the 5th. Well, I guess.
But I'm just saying, if you're going to take him, just wait to the fourth. That's me. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe not. Got to
well,
play
the other thing here. I mean, how is Hader going to be used this year?
That's the thing about it, though, because Knebel's back. And from everything that I've been hearing, Knebel's throwing well. So if Counsell wants to push Hader back into that, 7th and 8th and let him pitch the multiple innings, changes things up.
Morton Paddock sneaking in there pretty high.
Luis Robert. Look at that. Hader, Rendon, Robert. Talk about three different ages, skills, roles. Like, wow, that's third round.
Yeah. We'll bring it back here, Ani. You ready to roll? We'll get coming back here, guys.
Yep.
Okay. Coming back for segment 2. We welcome you back in. Kyle Elfrink, Howard Bender, Ray Flowers with you. It is the NFBC Super League Sprint. We have our third round completed. And we see more pitchers, including Howard Bender. We were talking about this during the time away. You saw our first reliever, Josh Hader. And notably, it is to the same man, Mr. Jody Ryan, has gone pitcher in the first 3 rounds here. All 3 picks, all 3 hurlers.
Well, for those also who are listening to the broadcast, you can also visit the live stream that we're doing at SiriusXM Fantasy on the Twitter account, Facebook page. You want to check out the back conversation that we just had about Josh Hader, and I think that's actually a really important thing. How is Josh Hader going to be used this year? So I want to know when we were going to start attacking closers. That right there in the third round. But yeah, with Corey Knebel back, will Counsell opt to push Hader into that more pivotal role where he can get 2 innings out of him, and he's not just reserving him for the 9th or not holding him back and saying, okay, well, he'll do the 8th and the 9th. I think that with this whole 3 batter rule that everybody's got to face, I think having a guy like Hader in there in the 7th and 8th is a lot more valuable.
Well, we finally see Jody Ryan go with a hitter. 4th round, it just went up. You can see it. Xander Bogaerts, his first hitter. Ray, I don't want to say the consensus. I think everybody has a different opinion on how this is going to work in 60 games. But a lot of people are kind of the opinion that great pitchers, because they'll have fewer starts, where nobody has a chance at 30 starts. Nobody has a chance at 20 starts. You've talked about maybe 12 being the hoped for number of starts. But Ray, in reality, especially in a fantasy world, it doesn't allow those great pitchers to kind of separate themselves from the pack. Over 162 games, the greatness of Max Scherzer, he differentiates himself from so many other pitchers. So in 162, people have made the argument, hey, I want to get a stud pitcher because that guy is going to put up tons of innings. It's going to help all of my ratios. I'm going to get a huge number of raw strikeout totals. We don't really have that in a 60-game set. And so a lot of people have said, well, I'm going to lay off the pitching. You look at it tonight, we've got about 50 picks through, and we're seeing a load of pitching selected by these 15 owners.
We are. And I mean, these are just quick examples, and I'm cherry picking them out. But Max Scherzer through 2 months last year was 2-5. Max Scherzer, Darvish had an ERA over 5. Like it to me, and I've said this before, and you and the listeners, I think, know my point on this. I agree with the idea that being ultra aggressive on pitching it's not the right year to do that. And I see the top 3 guys as being beyond ultra aggressive. It's next level, because if those guys don't perform, and by perform meaning Hader doesn't get his 14 saves like we talked about. Clevenger and Bieber don't end up 2-5 like Scherzer was last year. Unless those guys perform to those optimal levels, as you noted, Kyle, there simply isn't enough time for them to separate themselves from the other players. Taking a pitcher early, fine. Everyone does it in the NFBC. That's the way it works, sure. But taking 2 of your first 3 or 3 of your first 3 on the hill, I just think that's way too aggressive.
What are you feeling, Howard? I mean, are you more of the route of, hey, I'll get one really good pitcher in the first 4 rounds, or would you go 2 pitchers, 3 pitchers in a perfect world? What are you doing?
The way I've been doing it lately is in the first 5 rounds, I'm grabbing 2 starters, 2 starting pitchers, and feeling okay about it. Split it up, 2 pitchers, 3 hitters. Obviously a lot will determine on where I am, where I'm drafting. I want to get one of those, in the first round, I'm not going to take a DeGrom or a Cole. Verlander, like, Verlander or Scherzer. No draft that I've done so far has Clevenger gone in the first round. He's actually been that second round starter who I continuously pick up. So, I do think that there is a need to grab that starting pitching. I don't think you need to overdo it, though. If you're going to grab two starters like Clevenger and Bieber, there's not a need to grab Josh Hader there in the third. That's too much for me. That's where I want a hitter, and that's where I want to look at closers of a different tier. I'd rather go down to like a Ken Giles, who's got good job security and good stuff, as opposed to taking that extra pick early.
19 of the first 50 selections in this NFBC Super League going on the pitching side, and only one of them was a reliever. That was Josh Hader. And usually we have seen in other drafts, and certainly in years past, sometimes the first person breaks that seal on the relief position, and we see a lot of relievers soon going after that. So we see Josh Hader near the end of the third round, third to final pick in that round. We're now almost through the fourth round, and we've got no other relievers. And so the idea that the person strikes on Hader and maybe he gets the best guy and everybody else kind of falls in line, not happening here. We're still seeing a lot of starting pitchers going off the board. You see the names Greinke, Darvish, Snell, Patrick Corbin. Got a trio of pitchers all in a row, Bauer, Glasnow, and Barrios, all boom, boom, boom. Brandon Woodruff sneaking in to the first 60 picks. He's just the latest at number 58 overall. So pitching is going hot and heavy. Speaking of pitching, we've already touched on the fact David Einhorn's the defending champ. Last season, he did not take a pitcher until the 15th round. Here tonight, he gets his first pitcher in the fourth round. So you win a league like this, Howard, you win a lot of money. I think last year it was $40,000, for a 162 game season. And you might think to yourself, well, I can do it again. I can have the same strategy. I can do the same exact thing. I'll win it again. Totally different strategy here from David. Again, he waited until the 15th round or something last year. Here he takes Darvish in the fourth.
Listen, there's no way that a strategy that you've decided to employ for a 162 game season is even remotely what you want to do for a 60 game sprint like this. So yeah, I mean, he didn't take a pitcher until the 15th round, takes you Darvish in the fourth. I mean, that's, again, it's definitely important. Obviously, these guys are looking at the fact that you want that anchor on your pitching staff. You don't want to sit there. I mean, who was his best pitcher at the, in the 15th round last year? I mean, who was his number one guy? You start taking a look at that and you worry about what your ratios are going to look like. You're not, there's no time to recover.
I'll tell you, it was Tyler Skaggs.
Oh,
that was the guy he started with. He was terrible. He still won the league here. And I think we were talking to Greg Ambrosius, of course, who, the mastermind, if you will, of everything the NFBC does. And he was talking about what David did. And I think one of the keys he had, Ray, was sure, you kind of strike out with your first pitcher, Tyler Skaggs, but he went out and picked up Brandon Woodruff with the Red Sox. He was able to get him, Liam Hendricks. So in other words, he killed it with two relievers. He probably survived in the ratios. He did really well in the saves. Woodruff got him, 10 wins, I think it was last season. So yeah, maybe there was some luck involved, but it also speaks to the power of, one bad pick or even a strategy that doesn't go off perfectly. You can still win a very high powered and highly competitive league like this one.
Oh yeah, and it's not just the folks in this one. Oh, they got money. Yeah, they got money, but they know what they're doing too. I mean, no one. No, even if you have money, you don't want to throw $2,500 in the toilet, right? Like you just don't want to do that. Their strategies here. They're employing personal strategies. They're playing off obviously what they're seeing at the draft table, all that. And it is interesting to see how people can change year to year. Maybe like Howard noted, it's 162 versus 60. Your strategy, if it's exactly the same, you're probably not going to do very well. Either that meant your first strategy sucks or your second strategy sucks, because there is a massive difference here how the players should be viewed. So it's always fascinating to see how the teams come together. And it's always the knee-jerk reaction on draft day. Oh, team 6 is great. Team 4 is awful, that kind of stuff. And then you look at the end of the season and it ends up totally different than kind of what you expected on draft day.
Right.
30 rounds. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that you have to remember here, I mean, you can get lucky on the waiver wire and grab somebody. And there's going to be a lot of waiver wire action this year. You just know that you're going to see a ton of names, and maybe some of the guys are banking on that, teams that only have one starter through 4 or 5 rounds. But again, there's no time to recover. Sure, are you going to find? I mean, how many closers are going to be available on the waiver wire in such a short season? How many times you're going to get a guy? You can pick up a guy on the waiver wire, and what's he going to get you? He's going to get you 4 or 5 starts.
Yeah.
At that point, there's no time for them to really accumulate the number of innings that you're going to want to need to avoid the bad start or two.
Yeah, we've always said in years past, don't shy away from a closer who's on a bad team, like even a team that's going to win 65, 70 games, because there will still be saves to be had. And traditionally, those 65 to 70 wins, they're very close contests. Like the reliever is needed for 25, 30 saves. You look at it this year, and to your point, Howard, there's just not the quantity. A bad team, let's say they win 24 games this year, again, out of 60, 24 wins. Maybe you're looking at a max of like 10 saves. There's just these counting categories this year, Howard. It's going to have to be played differently because we just don't have the length of the season allowing guys to accumulate those numbers and kind of separate yourself in those roto statistical categories.
Correct. I mean, you look on offense, every at bat is going to count. In pitching, every single inning is going to count. You have to make sure that, and when you're talking about, closers, every opportunity is going to count. If your team's going to give you the more opportunities, those are the guys you have to invest in. I know that, before the pandemic, Hunter Harvey was everybody's darling. They're like, well, if the Orioles win 50 games, he's going to save 30 of them. You're not looking at Hunter Harvey in that light anymore. You have to pay attention to the teams who have, who are going to give you that greater opportunity. So, yeah, and when it comes to the counting stats here, every little bit counts. You can't have a dead spot on your roster, and you can't wait for guys to come around.
A total of 30 selections will be made by each of these 15 teams, and right now we are in the middle, right there in the middle of round number 5. Some notable names in this 5th round. We saw our second closer going off the board. A couple of young, entertaining, interesting selections too. A couple of young players, Vlad Jr. and Frankie Montas. When we return on our coverage here of the NFBC Super League, we're going to talk about the outlook for those youngsters. They go early in the 5th round here. What's the expectation for them in 2020? And how do these teams continue to fill up? Do we see some more closers start to go off the board? We'll tell you next right here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So we'll come back, talk about Yates. Looks like there's Liam Hendricks. So he's going. Was that 3 closers, I guess we got?
3
closers, Yates, Hendricks, and Hader. Okay. Eloy Jimenez. Frankie Montas seems early, huh? I mean, we may be really limited with him in terms of starts. I mean, he may have 6 starts this year.
Come on, Kyle, be positive. I grabbed Liam Hendricks last year. Like, I think it was week 3 or something, in AL labor for $1. Can you imagine? Like, my team still didn't win, but
yeah, I was going to say you still didn't win.
Yeah, still stunk. But yeah, it's the emergence of these guys early in the season is going to be huge, like Howard was talking about.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Like, even let's say a reliever goes down and the handcuff moves in, the 8th inning guy. It's like, what are you getting from that guy? Like you said, Howard, it's 7 saves over the final month and a half or something.
You're like, yes. Yes. Oh, my
6
God.
teams are tied for the top spot in saves. Yeah.
Matt McGill is going to win me fantasy baseball this year. It's going to be amazing.
Well, and our buddies Glenn and Rick will show up with a Matt McGill jersey.
There you go.
Next year at their draft. Okay, 5th round, just about ready. We'll come back. We'll fire things up with Yates here and get talking closers. So, okay. Here we go. We'll bring it back. Welcome you back in Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. A lot of money on the line. So often we are doing these drafts, and it's for fun. It's an expert league. Guys getting together. It's tradition. Not this league. It's a tradition, but it's a tradition to spend money. To enter this 60-game season, each of our 15 owners are paying $2,500. It's usually like $5,000 to enter. They decided to make it 2.5 this season with the shortened schedule, and we are off and running. You can see we're almost through 5 rounds. Again, a total of 30 rounds to go. And you heard the highlight coming back, Howard, Kirby Yates of San Diego. Kirby Yates emerged as the man for the Padres last year. A lot of people thought he would. He lived up to expectations. And here tonight, the second reliever off the board. He goes, I guess about what? You're looking at 16, 17 picks after Josh Hader. Hader going near the end of the third, and Yates was the first pick here of the fifth round.
I'm a big fan of Kirby Yates. Great stuff. You're also looking at a very nice situation here in San Diego. Not only do they have a number of pitchers parks in the NL, but they've got them in the AL also. You're also going to be facing teams like Seattle, who just look absolutely terrible at this point. So, I think a lot breaks right for Kirby Yates. You're also taking a look at that San Diego bullpen, which is absolutely on fire. I mean, you look at that. That's another thing that I think that we're going to end up seeing later on in the drafts. I think we're going to see a lot of middle relievers and setup men end up getting picked up just for the ability of balancing out a lot of those ratios that you're going to do, not to mention the possibility of closers in waiting. So you look at that situation in San Diego, and I want a piece of those pitchers, those starters there, because they've got such a strong bullpen and such a good bridge from starter to closer that it's going to end up preserving some wins, and then you're going to end up seeing good solid saves, less blown opportunities in the middle of the way there.
Well, plenty of San Diego guys still out there. The only starter to be selected, you can see it right there in the middle of the third round, is Chris Paddock. So you've still got another 3 or 4 starters that we could be selecting before the night is over. To follow up on that point with the closers, Ray, and I'm not saying specific to Yates, I think this goes for a lot of closers. We all need to also remember that this year, it's not just 60 games. It's 60 games in 66 days. There are not many off days. And so I wonder, and again, we're all kind of guessing with strategies, but I wonder, Ray, every win is going to be so critical. So like forcing Kirby Yates to pitch a third straight day early in the season, they may do it. They may say, any chance we got to get a win, they are so critical. We only get 60 opportunities for a victory this year. We'll push them to a third day. And if that happens with any closer, Ray, you may see a different guy closing 2 days later or even a day later if another save opportunity presents itself. What I'm getting at is Yates will be the guy, but with no off days, with the importance of maybe driving these guys in for 2 innings occasionally, maybe there are saves to be had by those 8th inning guys that Howard talks about, even though they don't become the guy, as we often signify it. They just kind of fall into some random saves throughout the season.
Yeah, they might fall into wins too. Angel Pagan might have more victories than Trevor Bauer. Totally could happen. And, I've thrown out there for discussion the idea of using team bullpens this year because of the volatility that you're referencing. I don't think anyone really wanted to take me up on that, and I understand why. But the position is
you're still trying to get sold over the barrel here, right?
Well, isn't it a good year to try it, Howard?
The eternal battle.
And Swip, where's Swip? Where's Sold for crying out loud? Ray, jeez, nobody's listening.
I know. I'm just going to keep. I'm like the guy in the forest. No, but I mean, like we're saying here, if we this is a problem people have. 30 saves, right, over the course of 6 months is 5 a month. It's not 5 every month. 1 month is 2 or 3. Another month is 8 or 9. Like there could be scenarios here where, your top, and Kirby Yates could have 3 saves the first month of the season. Could happen. He could have 11 the second, but you know what I mean? And it could be he has 3 and Angel Pagan has 3 too, because as Kyle's referencing, it's just the way the matchups went out or the schedule played out. So the handling of the closer spot to me is fascinating this season in particular, because you'll see some people that will just pull back and say, forget it. I'll just take whoever's there. I'll take Ian Kennedy. That'll be great. And then you'll see other people who'll double tap closers thinking they get some big advantage because they get quote unquote guys that have the position lockdown. I just don't know how much of a lockdown it's going to be in 2020.
How about the 2 youngsters right after Yates, Vlad Jr. and Frankie Montas? To me, Howard, the Montas selection is the one that truly stands out. That was taken by Jason DuPont, who is a former champ, but it stands out to me because Frankie Montas is a pitcher who we're still uncertain. How much will they push him? We have this question. We knew that even back in March. It was like, well, how much is Montas going to be pitching this year for the A's? That's when we thought we had 162. That question is still with us, and now we're down to 60 games. We haven't seen a whole lot of Frankie Montas. That's a really risky pick to me early in the 5th round.
I think it's a little bit of a risk in the 5th round. I get the buzz on Montas. I mean, before the suspension, and the dude was throwing gas. I mean, he was talking, it was 97, 98 consistently. Real strong arm, real live arm, good movement on his pitches, good command of his secondary offerings also. Then he got pinched. And that was I think a lot of people have that question of, well, if he was, all juiced up and that's how he was throwing, what's going to happen? What's his velocity going to look like? When he showed up this spring and he started throwing, the velocity was right there. The command was right there. He looked good in the spring. So I think that, when you take a look at a kid like Montas, again, we're only looking for, 12 starts out of these guys. The concern of whether or not to put any of these guys on any kind of innings limits, like him, Jesus Luzardo, even San Diego, Mackenzie Gore, they're talking about, throwing him this season as well. I think there's less of a concern of how much are they going to pitch him? If they're in contention, come towards the tail end of the season, they're not, what if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If he's working, it's not like he's going to throw 150 innings all of a sudden and everybody's going to be like, oh no, he's going to ruin his arm. Still not going to come close to that number.
Despite Vlad Guerrero basically being a league average guy last year, not much of a discount being built into the effort this season for him. The cost is still really high. We don't know how mentally he's going to handle the change across the diamond. From a fantasy perspective, it's a good thing because we have 4-game qualification. He'll play 4 games at first base, and he's a dual position guy. So that's a nice boost to his value this year. We'll have to hope that his offensive game matches the hype, that he lifts the ball a little bit better than he has. That's something, 50% ground ball rate's not going to get it done for him. And hopefully, again, that his mental side of things is locked in. He's not hurt because he was taken off the position or whatever, and he just goes out there and does what people believe he can do with the bat in his hands.
And we should note, for those who may have missed it, it has been announced that the Blue Jays, the entire franchise, the entire team, won't be playing in Toronto. Buffalo, New York will very likely be the home of the Toronto Blue Jays this year. The Canadian government not clearing the Blue Jays for home games. So they will play in Buffalo. Unfortunately, that means no baseball at all in Canada this year. Coronavirus wins again. Canadians don't get their baseball. Rest of the 5th round, you see some of the notable names. Victor Robles as the 5th pick of this 5th round. Eloy Jimenez sneaking in there to the 5th round. Liam Hendricks, another reliever. We see Charlie Blackmon and Austin Meadows, both guys kind of dealing with COVID right now. Meadows expected to start the year on the IL. Blackmon trying to get his legs underneath him and be ready for the season. Also, Aaron Judge makes an appearance here in the 5th round. Giancarlo Stanton just a few picks later. You're a Yankees guy, Howard. Judge and Stanton, man, you get Judge near the end of the 5th and Stanton at the beginning of the 6th. What do you think of those picks?
I think those are great picks. I really do. You're looking at, Judge is swinging the bat. He's fine. He's playing intra-squad games. It's good to go. The funny thing is when you get guys like Judge and Stanton, obviously the injury history isn't great. You could turn around and say, well, there's not enough time for these guys to get injured. Or you could say, well, if they get injured again, like they always do, then, you're totally screwing yourself. But to get the potential power here, like that's the thing when you're playing in a roto league and you're getting, those guys who have those huge power surges right at the beginning of the season. Guy goes that first month of the season, hits you 12, 14 home runs. That's pushing you in a very, very strong spot in order to take that early lead and have everybody else trying to play catch up. So I could see going out, getting that big power there and find out. I mean, think about it. You remember when Eric Thames hit like 16 home runs in the first month? Over the years, we've just seen these guys go out and really, hit with, tremendous power. This season, that happens in that first month. I mean, come on. You're looking at, a ridiculous lead over your opposition being able to have that. So having a guy like Judge and Stanton who can go on these big, huge home run tears, I don't mind it at all.
Well, and Jody Ryan, who we've talked a lot about in this first hour of our coverage because he started with back-to-back-to-back pitching. First 3 picks were all hurlers. You can see it, Clevenger, Bieber, Hader. He then follows with 3 hitters. One of them was Aaron Judge, but Ray, he even gets Nelson Cruz. Now, you can sit here and make the argument, not that it's a guarantee, nothing's a guarantee, but you can make the argument that even by going with 3 pitchers with his first 3 selections, in a 15-teamer, he might have gotten the 2 best power hitters still in this draft with Aaron Judge and Nelson Cruz in the 5th round and the 6th round there.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well given, the 3 pitchers to start. Obviously, there's health concerns with Judge. Cruz is getting old, and guys at age, 4 decades on this planet, sometimes it just goes overnight. But there hasn't been a better, more consistent home run hitter the last 5-6 years than Nelson Cruz. It's a very impressive duo of power bats. You've got Xander Bogaerts, who does a little bit of everything in front of them. That is a great power combination here in a 15-team mixed league.
Take a timeout here. When we return, we mentioned that Kentucky Derby system, the draft system that is employed by the NFBC. You get a ball, you get to choose your spot in the draft. We'll tell you how these owners handled it. We know when they were selecting, and we know what spot they selected. We'll run through some of the strategies that are employed. We'll do that next on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Yeah, it's not too bad of a follow-up after the 3 pitchers, still getting Bogaerts, Judge, and Cruz.
Yeah. And Frankie Montas was named the opening night starter, too. So take that, Kyle. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
boom.
So that'll be, 3.5 innings, 4 innings for him on opening
probably.
night?
Yeah. 48 pitches. Yeah.
Not every rotation's doing that, though. They're not all holding them back. 4 innings here. Dave Roberts is certainly doing that. Figured Joe Madden will do it. Kevin Cash will do it.
Edwin Diaz. And Kenley Jansen there.
Did you take Buehler that early? You're talking about that? Would you take him in the round like that?
No. If he's not gonna, if the first 2 starts he can't go, if he's limited to 4 innings, is that what they said? 4 innings for each one?
Something like that. I think, 3 or 4 innings is what they were saying, because he's behind and all that kind of stuff. They were saying they were hoping to get 3 innings, I think, out of him in his first start.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that you take him there is because he's not making his way back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does, I mean, if you figure that's for the first 2 starts, then if you're looking at 10 more starts for him for the Dodgers, and he's, up to mid-season form, I mean, it's a pretty tight anchor.
I know they're saying, he'll be ready to go 7 innings. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it with these guys. I think a lot of that reporting is just, we hope he can, or, I think they're all going to be like 5 innings the first time out.
Scherzer's getting smoked against Philadelphia right now. 2 3-run shots he's already given up.
Wow. Drafted him way too early.
Summer camp.
Terrible.
Have you guys watched any of the inter-squad scrimmages and such? I know some teams are doing them online.
Yeah, I've watched like 3 minutes of it.
Watched a little of the Redbirds the other day. And then said, I'm going to be doing this for the next 2 months. Why am I going to do it now? Took my day off. Yeah, Edwin Diaz and Kenley Jansen. That might be worth coming back here with, talking about these guys and relievers. Okay, we'll get rolling here. Okay. Do you have what it takes to be inducted into Fantasy Sports Radio's subscriber Ring of Honor? Tell us why right now. Winners get a customized championship ring. Also get to make an on-air appearance with us or somebody else. Maybe with Howard. I don't know. Anybody hanging out with us, Ray? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Yeah, Howard, though, is up for this.
I just did a video for the worst fantasy owner of the decade. So I'm really hoping that that's the guest I get to bring on the show.
So you get a ring. You get to maybe guest with Ray or Howard or one of our other great hosts. You also get into the Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League. Head over to SiriusXM.com/Ring of Honor. Do it before noon Eastern on July 25th. For all the eligibility, official rules, how to enter. Again, it's SiriusXM.com/Ring of Honor. It's only open to SiriusXM subscribers, and no additional purchase is necessary. You heard Howard Bender, Ray Flowers, Kyle Elfrink here. We are covering the NFBC Super League. And, of course, when we talk about the NFBC, we talk about the Kentucky draft system. Quite simply, Howard, about 15, 20 minutes before we started up tonight, these guys found out where they were selecting in the first round and found out where they're selecting for all 30 rounds tonight. How this works is you get your name drawn and you make the selection as to where you want to draft. I don't know if there's a lock, stock, and barrel kind of strategy here, but how do you usually handle it? I think it always depends on the year. It always depends on the league size, but is there a strategy you've employed where you get to choose where you're selecting and you feel good about one spot versus the other spots?
I mean, it just kind of depends on the type of drafts that I've seen. Like, I mean, for Major League Baseball this year, if I had, top choice, I would take that number one, number two pick this season. I'd be okay with doing something like that. And but I usually, when I do these drafts, I usually tend to try and stay away from the middle. So in a 15 teamer here, I'd probably say that, give me a pick 1 through 5, maybe 1 through 6, or just give me, 13, 14, or 15. I never really like being in the middle of drafts, especially in a 15 teamer.
When this draft season began 4 years ago with the FSGA draft, I took the 4 spot at the time, and I grabbed Mookie Betts and felt great about that. So I to Howard's point, I'd like to be in the top 4, or I'd like to be in the last 2. I think in a 15 team league, especially if the league is filled with people that are really up to par here, which of course they are in this league, you don't want to get stuck in the middle. You have to project out, and you miss players. You get 12 guys on this side, 12 guys on that side taken. So I top 3 or 4 is fine with me, as well as the back 2.
Well, Mark Perlmutter, kind of following the advice you guys gave, he was the first name out of that. So he had all 15 spots. He could have chosen anywhere. He went number 4, just like you did, Ray. So he took that 4th spot. And if you look at the first 5 names out of the hat, all 5 of those individuals said, we want to be in the top 5. So you had Mark, his name was out first. He took number 4. Jason DuPont, he took number 3. Then Dan Simzel, I should say, he took number 1. Samuel Horton was the 4th name out of the hat. He went number 2. And then Tom Eschenfelder, he was the 5th name out of that. He took number 5. About the only off the board thing, Ray, was Anthony Palavis. Anthony was the 6th name out of the hat here, and he took the 12th overall selection.
Yeah, and again, there's strategies. I don't know if the round went as expected. 4 pitchers in the top 10 picks, maybe not. It's that when you go with that spot, you obviously have a clear plan you're trying to hit, and a lot of times I think it has to do with what you get on the way back, what you're feeling about the second round, as much as it is about that first round spot.
You heard coming back, the relievers wrapping up some saves. We got more relievers going off the board. We see Edwin Diaz near the end of the 6th round, middle of the 6th round, Kenley Jansen. Nick Anderson leads things off, as you can see, in the 7th round. Roberto Osuna there early in the 7th round. Taylor Rogers. So we're kind of going through our reliever run. And we should note, heck, we started the hour talking Jody Ryan. I guess we'll end it. Another pitcher, another Cleveland pitcher. Howard, he's got 3 Indians, and 5 of his first 8 picks have been guys on the hill for 2020.
Yeah, this is this is his strategy. He expects to dominate, the ratios. He expects to dominate in strikeouts, and feels like there's enough depth of hitters for him to be able to do it, or he feels like there's going to be enough action on the waiver wire this year that he's going to be able to fill in the blanks for the offensive categories here. But again, to Ray's point, Brad Hand, Mike Clevenger, Shane Bieber, something goes wrong in that locker room. And right? I mean, the stories of Franmil Reyes talking about like he got sent home by Terry Francona because he was out partying all the time and he wasn't wearing a mask. I mean, all it's going to take is for one moron to ruin everything, and then Jody's team just gets flushed down the toilet.
And Jody has 3 closers. I don't think there's another team with even 2 closers right now. He's got Hader, Hand, and he just selected Hector Neris. We are finishing up our 8th round. We're wrapping up hour 1. We've got more of the NFBC Super League Sprint Championship coming your way on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Yeah, how about all those relievers? Hader, Hand, and Neris. He's going pitching crazy.
Team 1's got Yates and Anderson, so there's the only
2.
other one with 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be touching Kenley Jansen at all.
Yeah, that seemed early to me.
Right? The heart condition, the COVID, all of that.
Are you guys buying Diaz? Those reports about Diaz maybe not being the guy for the Mets. They might mix and match a bit.
I think they will mix and match.
Seth
Lugo,
yeah,
Gesellman.
I mean, it was so bad last year. The natural reaction is obviously you throw 98, it's got to be better, and we all think it will be. But to your point, Kyle, this is you blow your first 2 outings, and it's like we're 3 games out of first place here. We're 5 days into the season, and we got to go. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Oh, you guys see this email from Greg?
What do you got?
So Einhorn is catering dinner for these guys as part of the bet that he'd buy dinner last year if he won. So after round 10, they're going to take a 20+ minute break. Are you serious?
These guys got to eat. They got to rejuvenate after 10 rounds.
Sorry, but this was pre-planned, he says. Well, you think that somebody might have mentioned that? We wouldn't have live streamed this thing. What are we going to? We're going to sit here and talk about their rosters for 20 minutes, ask them what they're having for dinner?
I'd actually like to hear what they're having for dinner there. I'm sure it's they're in the palatial high rise. They probably got Morton Steakhouse catering in. That'd be nice.
It's not going to be 20 minutes either. It'll be longer.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Hansel Robles, Razel Iglesias. Okay, we'll bring it back here.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to be the a-hole, and I'm going to send that email.
We expect you to be that guy, Howard, right?
I just think it's nonsense. It's nonsense. We got people watching the live stream, and here we go. People are watching the live stream. Folks, just so you know, after round 10, these chuckleheads are going to start stuffing their face with whatever COVID takeout they're getting in New York City. Nom, 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 nom. Well, we just get to sit here and not eat and then have to
I thought we got the 20-minute break too. We don't get that? We got to stay live?
Let's take an hour break. Let's power move them.
Right? Let's power move them right there. You know what? We'll drop the mic for 20 minutes. That's garbage.
You guys in your $2,500 entry fee, we can top you.
Right?
We can show you who the boss is.
This is bad. You stay tuned to the live stream. This is going to get ugly. Not going to lie. That's pissing me off now.
Do you want to expand on this?
So a 3-hour show on Sirius XM now turns into us here for 4 hours because these guys want to sit and eat like a bunch of babies. Well, why can't we take a break? We're doing so much work during this draft. Like people who ask for excessive breaks during drafts drives me insane.
Well,
insane.
You at least got to go to the halfway point of the draft before you break, don't you? I mean, it seems a little early after 10 rounds. Like literally, they'll have drafted for 1 hour, and then they'll break. So
they should They could have taken. It's always a 10 and 20. That's fine, but the dinner should have been after.
If you're going to sit down and eat, get half of it over. I don't know. Okay, we'll bring it back here. We'll get what we can for the next few moments here. Mike Trout, a lot of highlights courtesy of that guy. We hope a lot of highlights from that guy in 2020. He is one of the main storylines that has come out as our first hour of coverage here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. It is the NFBC Super League Sprint. 15 teams, all 15 people in this league, coughing up $2,500 to be a part of this league. The winner walking away with $20,000, and that's $20,000 for 2 months of work. We mentioned Mike Trout as we return here to the draft with Howard Bender and Ray Flowers. Guys, that is still one of the more notable developments here in the first 60 minutes. Mike Trout falling all the way down to number 14. And to build upon the point we had in the previous hour, Ray, with Mike Trout, we're almost certain there is going to be some sort of missed action. And it's just a matter of when is it going to happen? Does it stretch longer than a handful of days? If it happens when the Angels are on the road, does Mike Trout just stay at home with his wife who's giving? There are so many unknowns with Trout. There are other guys kind of dealing with the same thing, but when it's the best player in baseball, if you will, it really stands out, and it scared off an awful lot of owners here tonight in the first round.
Yeah, it's one thing if you and your buddies are doing your home league and whatever, right? Take Mike Trout, who cares? $2,500 on the line, it's a substantial outlay of money. And, in the case of Trout, let's also, you have to make your decision. Trout's just the point to hit on this. You have to make your decision how you're handling this season, right? How are you handling COVID and the whole thing? Mike Trout might go away. There might be complications with his wife or his baby during birth. Mike Trout might stop playing. He might take the whole rest of the season off to deal with his family. I mean, that could happen with other people too, guys that we're not talking about now. So it's not only Trout, but you have to make the decision of how you're going to play the game. Are you going to go for it? Because if you're going to go for it, and you might see Mike Trout sitting there at 14, booyah, that's a bonanza, right? If you're being reluctant, if you're concerned and worried about it, and you're trying to be safe, you pass on them like 13 other people did.
And Howard, you look at that first round, 5 of the first selections were starting pitchers. There was a lot of hitting talent there at like 14 and 15. Juan Soto was still out there. Tatis, Bryce Harper, Nolan Arenado. I mean, these are guys that are going in the first round and a lot of 15-teamers, but still sitting there on the back end of the first round and early in the second round.
Yeah, not really a move that I personally would make. Again, I'm looking to grab a nice, strong hitter, somebody with power, somebody with a little bit of speed in there as well, before I'm worried about taking that starter. I don't need DeGrom with his back issues. I don't need Verlander or Scherzer. Look at the names that went in the second round. And to me, even in the third round, Flaherty, Strasburg, Kershaw, Luis Castillo. Those are names that I'm perfectly happy with, taking instead of one of the top names in lieu of one of these top hitters. I think that premium hitters are definitely going to be your bread and butter this year.
And the owner who took Mike Trout, he probably thought he didn't have a chance at Mike Trout. He's the defending champ, David Einhorn, sitting at number 14. He also took another Angel, Anthony Rendon, in the third round. That has been a storyline emerging in the first hour, selecting teammates. We see the guy at the very beginning, Daniel Simsel. He has Ronald Acuna, he has Freddie Freeman. Of course, you look at Team 13, Jody Ryan. He has a couple of Cleveland Indian pitchers. In fact, he added a third later. He's got Clevenger, Bieber, and Hand. In the situation that all of us are in, and certainly that baseball is in, that is a risk. There is a risk that something winds its way through a locker room, through a clubhouse, and multiple guys could be set down. You can't avoid it, but this is investing in guys on the same team in the first 2 rounds, in the first 3 rounds. So that is worth following. We mentioned Jody. He has stood out because 5 of his first 8 selections were guys who throw the baseball: Clevenger, Bieber, Hader, Brad Hand, and Hector Neris. He's gone heavy with the closers. Ray, if that works out, if Hader, Hand, and Neris, they're fine. They're the closer all year for their team. Maybe you get 35, 40 saves from those 3 guys. The reason I bring that up, and we touched on this a bit in our first hour tonight, the counting categories. If you go into the final 2-3 weeks of your season, things will be so bunched together in things like stolen bases, things like home runs, things like wins, saves. It'll be really bunched together that a lot of these races in Roto League should come down to the last week, because there should still be a lot of movement. We usually don't see a lot of movement in the month of September, but this year, with everything being different, Ray, expect a lot of movement. You will never be able to sit and say, I've got this league locked up. There is no way I'm losing, because, again, a lot can change with the categories so tightly bunched in a 60-game season.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because we just don't have the ability for the total of the games to lead to large totals and saves. I mean, it's quite conceivable that someone's got 2 closers and they get 6 saves last week and they gain 4 spots in the standings. It totally can happen. And that's a position we focused on, the saves one, because it's, the small number there, where, obviously the steals are on the offensive side of things, but that's an issue. Further talking about, Team 13, do we have a punt batting average strategy going on here? I mean, not that Nelson Cruz and Xander Bogaerts are, any bad shakes here, but are we concerned about the fact that Conforto, Gallo, even Judge at this point? I guess we made the decision because we went heavy pitching that we're not going to worry about batting average.
A lot of power.
Punting batting average and speed.
Yeah, that's true too.
Either.
Yep.
Huh. Can you punt in a league like this? Because, again, that's 1 point out of 15 points that are available. I mean, it's really difficult. And punting 2 categories, guys. it's risky to punt one, Howard. I think punting two, and you're really pushing the envelope.
Oh yeah, definitely. Listen, I'm not a fan of punting unless you're talking about a head-to-head league where you can punt one category like saves or even like stolen bases. Then that's fine. But in a 15-team roto, you're giving points away. Now, it'll be interesting to see if the dominance at pitching even happens. Like Ray just said, he's got Hader, he's got Brad Hand, he's got Hector Neris. What if those teams just don't get the save opportunities there? What if he's got three guys right there, and in the first month of the season, he's got 9 or 10 saves amongst the those guys right there. He's got power, but then he's got no speed, so he's not dominating in saves. His ratios are fine. There's no stolen bases. I think what we're looking at when you're dealing with this kind of a season right now, punting is just, it makes it even worse. Of a possibility, only because we just don't know. In a 162 game season, what's happening when you're punting a category. You know what's going on. You have no clue what's happening this year, and just because you've got 3 closers doesn't mean you're at the top of saves.
And for some of our listeners and people following the live stream on Twitter, they might be able to, Ray, in their league at the draft, punt a category and say, I'm going to make a trade to help in that category. Again, not in this league. In this league, Ray, the team you draft is the team you got outside of the waiver. There's no trading. So that even takes away an advantage that you could have. If you punt at the draft, well, I'll get some steals here. I'll trade for a guy, maybe a closer, whatever. I can fill that later. In this league, you don't have that option at all.
You don't. And just to give some support here, because I agree with everything we said is the way I see it. But what if late in this draft you grab Luis Arias and he hits 360 this year? What if you grab Alex Verdugo and he hits 342? There is volatility on the other side too. We focused on the negative. What if you're able to find batting average late because you grab a bunch of guys with good approaches and good hit tools, and they have a hot 2 months? They hit 340 for the 2 months, and there's not the time for them to hit 260 the rest of the way for the numbers to come down. So it'll be fascinating to see how the teams come together in total, because you're going to have to find it somewhere, right? If like we said, you can't punt 2 categories. You're punting 2 categories. You have no chance to win this league. So we'll see what happens.
Hader was the first reliever taken there by Team 13. That was near the end of the 3rd round. We kind of hit the pause button on closers. We saw Yates go in the 5th round, Liam Hendricks in the 5th round. Things really picked up on the closer front in the 7th round, and it's pretty well continued, Howard. Ken Giles, you see there in the 8th round. Hector Neris in the 8th round. The 9th round, Archie Bradley comes off the board. Alex Colomé, Aroldis Chapman, Hanzo Robles, Razel Iglesias. So at least in this 15-teamer, you want to have at least one closer, probably by the end of the 7th round, maybe the 8th round if you want a high-end guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, if you look at just how far down they go, we're in the 10th. Brandon Workman, Jose Leclerc, Mark Melancon, and Craig Kimbrell. So you do need to act quicker if you're going to want a closer. I think one of the funniest things about this is, like, we're sitting here, and we just, the 3 of us keep going back and forth. Well, this closer could not, might not have, more than 3 saves over the first month. And then what's the point of taking him so early? For the same token, we're like, well, a guy like Aaron Judge could hit, 12 home runs in the first month. And that's a great move. Like, that's the thing about this season that I think is so crazy. And just in the sense that we've never dealt with this. We have no idea. COVID could hit a locker room. COVID won't hit a locker room. Like, that's the thing. I think the team that the one thing that I can say is that out of all of these teams right here, out of 15, the one who stays the healthiest, that's the winner.
Yeah. And the frustrating thing is, this is a one-off. Like, okay, we're going to play these 60 games and we're going to have all this craziness, and maybe we learn something. But honestly, and I say this with all manner of hope involved, hopefully we never have to deal with this again. So it's like, okay, well, we'll play this and maybe we'll pick up a strategy. You're never going to employ these strategies ever again. At least that's the hope, that we're back to our regularly scheduled baseball season in 2021. This year is going to be different. We hope it's the last time we have a different one like this. But it's just a whirlwind a wild, wild fantasy baseball season. And that's why we're covering this. These guys are putting their money where their mouth is. $2,500 to enter. They have reached the end of 10 rounds. You can see it right there on the board. That leaves 20 rounds to go. They're going to take a break. We will take a timeout as well. When we come back, we're hoping to visit with a few of these guys. They've got another break scheduled later tonight, but we hope to talk to a couple of these guys and dig into their strategies, and they can tell us if things are going according to plan, if things are wildly off kilter. Are they changing their strategies a great deal here in 2020? It's all coming your way next right here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Okay.
Well,
so they have hit the break.
Here's the interesting thing, Kyle. What's the biggest complaint about why people don't play fantasy baseball?
It's too long.
Because it's too long.
Right.
Too much of a grind.
Now we're looking at strategies for a 60-game season. Who's to say that you don't do half-season leagues now? Even more, you can play with the same, same guys.
Yeah.
At the All-Star break, everybody throws back in, and you do a redraft.
Very well. I mean, and here's the other part is, we got the whole confusion once football season hits in July. So, everybody bails on baseball. Maybe you just play the first half of the baseball season from now on. Maybe people will say, that's more fun just to play April, May, June, and the first week of July, and then I'm done with fantasy baseball.
Hey, guys. Sending an email here saying that Ronas is lining up guests to interview. Let him know if you need anyone in particular.
We have one on the line.
We got one on the line. Who do we have with us?
How you doing? This is Jody. Thanks for having me.
Jody Ryan. We've been talking a lot about your team, so it'll be good to have you.
Well, thanks for asking me. What's going on?
Okay, well, we're going to start up. We're doing the live stream on Twitter, but we're also taping. So we'll bring it back here, and then we'll go right to you. Okay, Jody?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, coming down with Jody Ryan. Here we go. We welcome you back in. It is the NFBC Super League Sprint. Kyle Elfrink, Howard Bender, Ray Flowers. 10 of the 30 rounds have been completed in this Super League, and now they break. They were going so rapidly. They had to take a breather. And one of the 15 owners is with us. Joining us is a man whose team we have talked a lot about tonight. Team number 13, Jody Ryan, is with us. Jody, good to have you with us. Thanks for taking some time out during this break. And, let's jump right into it. There's a lot of pitching here. 5 of your first 8 picks. Talk about the strategy and why you went that direction.
Absolutely. When you're playing the best around, these guys are so good. I'm playing a lot of leagues. And I actually picked the back a little bit because I love the Indians pitching. I like the division they're in. So I love the Clevenger and Bieber hit there. And then I decided Hader was there, and let's grab some more strikeouts. Let's get some saves. And then I want to wrap up saves. I want to take this as a short season, so I threw out batting average. And so far I've gone for power and pitching.
Jody, let me ask you. Yeah, you threw out batting average here. Well, so to speak. In a short season, who knows? Maybe Joey Gallo ends up, hitting 320, 330. But it's not just batting average. It's a little bit of a punt on speed as well, unless you've got plans later on in the draft. Do you find that you could be at a little bit more of a disadvantage having, so to speak, punted 2 categories instead of just 1?
Great question. No, I think there's enough speed from where we're going now. I shouldn't be saying this if they can hear me, but there's enough speed at the end that with those 4 power bats I have, I think I can grab a couple of those rabbits I want and mix it up. Again, like you just said, the batting average is going to be so random with a 60-game schedule that I'm almost throwing it out. I think like a guy like Michael Brantley, when we're not sure, the best thing about him is his batting average. Is he going to really hit that? Has a bad 2 weeks? Will he really get there? So kind of going to power speed with these guys here tonight. Power
Jody,
early, speed late.
Jody, how much did you change your strategy? Because that's something we talked about just in general. How much did you change your strategy for the 60-gamer versus if this was 162? Did you make huge definitive statements and decisions based upon the shorter season?
Yeah, well, you talked to Jason Font the other day. He's a good friend of mine. We actually drove up together. Yes, 60. It's totally wiped out for me. 60 games to me is put the healthy guys on the field and just try to bang out some categories that they can do. I want the power hitters to hit power and the speed guys to run. The batting average is going to be flexible. Save guys to close, so getting those really good save guys. And that's how I'm going to run this draft. I've already done 3-4 mains in big leagues. So, and I'm watching how it's rolling. You're not going to get pitching late that you want. So I grabbed that early, grabbed the power, and now hopefully get the speed later. So yeah, I'm totally changing up what I'm thinking of doing. What I would do in a regular 162. I would never try this in a 162.
Talk to us a little bit more about the decision, and it's something that we've commented on here on the broadcast. You've got Mike Clevenger, you've got Shane Bieber, you've got Brad Hand. Obviously, you're not overly worried about COVID. We've mentioned on the broadcast what happens if COVID goes to the clubhouse and it hits the Indians in particular. You didn't have any problem going with 3 pitchers on the same team, huh?
No, well, that's it. You're going in all in with these guys, right? So you're going all in. If I skip guys with COVID, I skip a Shane Bieber or a Brad Hand, and all of a sudden I take a lesser player because he's on a different team and he gets it, how would I feel? You got to go as you're hoping they're not getting it. Who knows who's going to get it? You know what I mean? You have no clue. If we did, we'd be rich. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but for this one, I'm going all in.
Well, Jody, you might be rich in 2 months' time. It's a pretty nice payoff if you get this right. I mean, turning $2,500, which is the entry fee, and the possibility of $20K. So good luck with this. You got 20 more rounds to go. We'll let you get a breather and get back in there, okay?
All right, you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Jody Ryan joining us. He brings up the point, Howard. You don't know. You can't plan. Everybody's at risk. I don't know if one person is more at risk than somebody else. Since you don't know, you can be like Jody and just say, c'est la vie. I'll just live with what I get. I'll chance it. I'll take the best player, and I'll cross my fingers for 60 games.
Yeah, listen, it's pulling a strategy, and it's just committing to it 100%. It's not hedging. He's not sitting there being like, oh, well, what if this happens? Or, oh, well, what if that happens? He's saying, listen, I'm not worried about batting average. I'm not going to be worried about that at all. I'm not going to sit here and freak out and pass up on players who I want just because there could be a COVID outbreak. We don't know. So, I like the gumption there of just saying, you know what, screw it. I'm pushing my chips all in and we'll see what happens.
We heard from Jody Ryan. Let's listen to another participant joining us on the line now. We got Mike Masoto selecting in the 6th spot. And before we get to your draft, Mike, we should note you're considered, I guess, the founder of this league. Or are you you're the hub of everything we've got going on with this Super League? Talk about this league. I mean, this is a very different league. I know a lot of you are very close in this 15-teamer. And unlike so many other leagues, you guys put some serious cash on the line, don't you?
We do, guys. And thanks for having me, man. It's great to have you guys covering it and doing such a great job. This is in its 9th year. I started this thing back up 9 years ago. And I with the idea that I wanted to put together the best of the best in the NFBC if I could on the East Coast for bragging rights, make it like a home league feel. So we have like a mega trophy that we give out, travel trophy every year. We have the Iron Balls KDS. We do live draw for the balls right before, so no one knows the draft spots right before. A lot of stuff that we do to make it really be like a personalized league. So first year we did this, we had like $750,000 of lifetime earnings in the league. We had like 2 Hall of Famers from the NFBC, and so it's turned into be one of those leagues. It's a must draft league. Usually it's a $40,000 league. We cut it in half this year because of the shortened season, but everybody still has a good time here. And I had to make it live. And nothing like doing live, doing it live, and we're making it happen.
Mike, let me ask you here about the KDS system, because you had the 7th choice. You went with the 6th overall pick in this draft. We kind of discussed it back and forth, whether or not you like being on the ends, whether you like being in the middle. What was the thought process for you saying, listen, I'll pass on the top 5 players there and I'll stay somewhat in the middle on this draft?
Yeah, well, I wanted to be on one or the other, and I was closest to the front. I mean, I didn't want to be at the back. I just did a main event prior to this with some of these same guys in it, so I wanted to vary it up a little bit. I like the end of the draft this year, but so I just wanted to get more to the front. I wanted to try to get one of the front end aces there, and DeGrom, I guess, because there was some uncertainty about that fell there. I think he's gonna be fine. So, but you got to go big or go home in this league. It's boom or bust with this league, so you got to take a few chances here. So, and so I wanted to be more toward whatever the best pick left on that side of the draft. So it's worked out pretty well. Pretty balanced club. Had a bit a little speed still left now, and I think we'll get another closer. But it's starting to come together.
Mike Masoto is with us. Mike, talk about the decision to go pitching in the first round, because in a 60-game slate, you go Jake DeGrom, maybe you only get, I don't know, a dozen starts, maybe you get 10 starts. One of the arguments has been made that, over the course of 162, these great pitchers like a DeGrom really separate themselves from all the other pitchers, and they really pick you up in the ratios because they're throwing, 215 innings and they're getting 250 strikeouts, whatever it may be. But we don't have that this year. Did you hesitate to pull that trigger on the pitcher, or do you feel there's still a lot of value in having that horse at the top?
Yeah, well, I really wanted to get the anchor because you're like, right now, a year like this, a blow up with a starter, you start mining later is really going to kill you. You're not going to recover for it. So you want the guys that are going to be possibly as rock solid. Anything can happen, but you want to minimize that risk. If you want to go to the big names, if you can get them, Glassman will always be from last year. If he stays healthy, he's another guy that could be create DeGrom value. So pairing them up with him. So I really wanted to go with the pitcher in the first round too, because I knew where I was picking by the time it got back to me. In this league, there was going to be slim pickings on the way back. So I just thought, let me just jump on DeGrom here and get an anchor and build from there.
Talking to Mike Masoto, the founder of this super sprint league that they're playing here on the NFBC that we're covering. Let me ask you here about the Kenley Jansen pick. Known heart condition. We know everything that's going on, with COVID and how everybody is, back and forth with whether or not they're going to do it. How much of the concern of an outbreak do you have going in with this, or are you turning around saying, you know what, I can't worry about that, and I just have to pick the players I want?
Look, Jansen had it already. I think he just came back from it, and if he got through it, and even with heart conditioner also, the guy's a rock. He's a gamer. He wanted to play. He said he was going to play, and for the season. So you get a closer like him, and he was dominant recently in just squad games, and looks like he's going to be fine on a great team like the Dodgers. Man, that's a huge benefit right now. And in the sixth round, in a league like this, usually in a standalone league like this, you get a lot of guys punt and saves. In this league, traditionally, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys punt and save. I think some guys may even not have picked a closer already because you're not having an overall contest here. So right now you can have a lot of guys, but I think let me get this guy where he is right now in the sixth, and he's solid. Somebody building a lesser close later on, pair them together, and I'm making points and saves this year. So I'm not really worried about it, Kenley at all. But look, like you said, anything can happen. It's one of those years where it's a complete crapshoot. So we just don't know what's going to happen, but you just go for it.
More than any other season, that phrase, anything can happen, you're going to hear it a lot, and it makes a lot of sense in 2020. Mike Masoto, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Great job with this league. As you noted, it's in its 9th season. I think it gets bigger and better every year. Last year was a hell of a race to the finish line with all of you guys. We enjoy being a part of this and really enjoy hearing from you.
Okay, guys, thanks so much for covering it.
Yep, Mike Masoto with us. Jake DeGrom, Tyler Glasnow, a couple of pitchers in his first 4 rounds. He got Kenley Jansen. He also got a couple of more Dodgers. Ray, we saw Mike get Julio Urias in the 9th round, and he came back with Corey Seager in the 10th round. So 3 of his last 5 picks have been Dodger guys.
Yeah, and again, I guess this room is full of people that are doing the skill thing and the player talent thing, and they're not as worried about the potential ramifications. You can't argue with talent there, of course. Tremendous skills and good value in picks. I think Corey Seager's someone that doesn't run, but he's got the ability to do pretty much everything else on offense. Three teammates seem to be the going rate in this league. No one's too worried about it.
Ray Flowers there, Howard Bender over here. And no one's worried about it. That's what's got us into this mess, I think. We're gonna
that's exactly the thing. How is it something that's being ignored when it is the exact reason that we're like sitting here right now worried about? You know what?
We're humans. That's why.
Screw this. Forget it. You know what? For the live stream people there, I'll put my mask on right now. All right. There we go.
Speaking of the live stream, you can follow us on Twitter as we speak over at SiriusXM Fantasy, where you get to get a little extra of Ray, Howard, and myself during the commercials. We're talking, we're having fun. You'll see the board behind us, and as you look at that board right now, 10 rounds have come to completion. This is a 30-round get-together, so we still have a lot to go in this sucker. They're in a break right now, but I think here in the next few moments they'll be firing up with round 11. We will recap where we have been and where we are going in just a bit. And we should mention, as we head to the timeout, all of our fantasy drafts, this one, but all of the drafts that we've had over the previous, I guess it's been 4 or 5 months, are available with the SiriusXM app in the on-demand feature. So you go to SiriusXM, you fire up the app, you go to on-demand, pull up our station, you'll see a folder with all the fantasy drafts. So all the get-togethers we've had, things like Labor, things like Tout Wars, certainly this NFBC get-together, going back to the FSGA in January of this year, all of those are available in the app in the on-demand section. When we return, we get back to drafting the NFBC Super League Sprint. It is indeed a sprint, 60 games, and somebody's going to turn their $2,500 entry fee into $20K by the end of September. We'll see how these teams continue to be built, strategies employed, and maybe some surprises here in the middle rounds. We will start to see some chances being taken, maybe some hot shot rookies who haven't even appeared in the bigs. We could hear their name called when we return on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Okay, got the break. It sounds like we're going to be a little less than 20. They've almost been 20, I guess, thus far, haven't they?
Yeah, 2 interviews. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Greg said he's going to limit them to like 10 or 15. So
look at you, Howard. You get results, man. You didn't like that 20-minute break. You got on the horn, and now we're going to be back.
Man, I ain't going to sugarcoat it. Listen, you know what? 3-hour broadcast here, right? 3 hours.
It's done.
I'm going to turn into a 4.5-hour thing. You guys heard Matt Sells' kids yelling in the background when he was setting up the live stream. They're not going to be that patient.
Man, Mark Melanson. Check that out. 10th round, right? Like, what kind of world are we in where Mark Melanson goes right after Craig Kimbrell? Is it really that bad all of a sudden between
right?
Frightening.
Especially when Will Smith has more saves this year, right? Yeah.
Mark Melanson. Ugh. That's scary. Yeah, we've had a lot of how many relievers have gone off the board now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Everybody's enjoying my counting here.
Yeah,
13, 14, 15,
That's, you know
16,
what? I'm listening
17,
to you count, and I'm looking at this Schwarber Reyes Soler in the 7th round. I'm like, oh yeah, let's just keep counting those home runs now.
Yeah,
Boom,
17.
boom, boom, boom.
I think we're at 17 or 18 relievers. So most of the good guys are gone.
I'm seeing word that Domingo Germán is not retiring. Okay, I didn't realize that he was contemplating retirement.
He said he's done with baseball, but it was maybe lost in the translation. I don't know.
Gotcha. Very interesting. But yeah, dude, pitching is just dominated this.
Mm-hmm. It's all over.
Lots of yellow.
There's a lot of yellow on this draft board.
Sure is.
Yeah, so we got, I guess we got 150 picks, and I'm looking at, there's got to be at least 40-something pitchers. Maybe 50 pitchers here out of 150 picks. That's about a third of the board.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be pitching early and then it would slow down. But, I mean, you look at this 9th round and the 10th round, majority of the picks are pitchers.
Rough count, 62.
62 out of 150.
Yeah, I just blasted through it. I could be plus or minus 2.
Probably go with at least 60 of the, we'll say this, 40% of the picks.
There you go.
Pitchers. That's how we do it. 40% of the picks. Okay, you guys ready? We'll get things rolling. Hopefully they'll be starting in the next few moments. Here we go. Good to have you back with us, Kyle Elfrink, Ray Flowers, and Howard Bender as we cover the NFBC Super League Sprint here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. The three of us were conversing during the breather there, and Ray, you're the numbers guy, because Howard, you're the food guy. So Ray's got to be the numbers guy. And Ray, what'd you come up with? So about 60, maybe even more. We're doing a count right now. We've had 150 picks, and about 60 of them have been pitchers thus far in this get together.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, that's 40%. And we always say that you have to play your draft, right? So whether you wanted to go aggressive on pitching or not, if you're in this room, you have to make an aggressive decision to, hey, I'm just going to shoe it and do my thing, or you got to get in. And, based upon looking at the teams, pretty much everyone jumped in. And, we're in round 11 now. And we're already starting to see guys come off the board where it's like, okay, yeah. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, that's not really what you wanted your second or third starter. And you look up and it's their fourth or fifth starter and they're doing just okay.
Yeah, and we did get a count, Howard. It was 60 of 150. And then the first pick of this 11th round, we're up and going again, Matthew Boyd. So that's 61 of 151. We see Joe Jimenez. I mean, we're so deep into the pitching, Howard. The Detroit Tigers are being drafted in the 11th round.
Listen, we said it before. There's a lot of yellow on this board when it comes to the pitchers. I mean, again, it's fine seeing what we've got. Listen, whoever team 4 is, they started off with Garrett Cole, which again, not really a move that I would do, but followed it up with Devers, Villar, Olson, Bryant, McNeil, and then even took, after taking a closer when the rush of closers was going, still went back and took Benintendi. That to me, that's that's a good strategy. That's something that you're not overly investing. And while everybody's sitting here now taking the closers, he gets a guy like Luzardo, he gets a guy like Odorizzi. I think he got his one anchor in the first, first few rounds, and now he's building. That's kind of that's the blueprint that I've been following for, the drafts that I've done in the last few weeks.
And guys, I'm looking at these teams, and again, this is a 15-team get together, and you mentioned all the yellow on the board. So many of these teams already have like 5 pitchers. But there are at least a couple of teams that haven't necessarily gotten hugely involved in the pitching rush. One of them is Team 10. That's Eddie Gillis. Now, it's interesting. He's only got 3 pitchers, but his first 2 picks were pitchers, Scherzer and Flaherty, and then he's been hammering the hitting. He has a closer in Ken Giles, so those are his 3 pitchers. Keston Hiura, George Springer, Yohan Moncada, Max Muncy, Kevin Biggio, Carlos Correa, Michael Brantley. So all of those guys coming, and he has just the 3 pitchers, but there's actually another individual with even fewer pitchers. It's our defending champ, David Einhorn. Ray, right now, he's kind of in a Ray Flowers spot. 2 pitchers out of his first 10 selections. He has Yu Darvish and Archie Bradley. That's it right now. And so many other teams in this league are sitting there with even a half dozen pitchers at this point.
Yeah, and we all saw what Darvish did in the second half. He was spectacular last year. Can he keep that up? Can he keep the control up? If he can dominate any opponent. Archie Bradley is someone who I think we all love his arm, but last year was messy. And, as your second closer, sure. As your first closer, as your second pitcher, So there's a lot of work to be done here. And, it's really interesting. Rizzo falls because of the issues with his back. He's down in the 7th round, which is a great addition there. You look at the 2 to 3 early picks, and again, we saw 2 guys from the Angels, and I keep harping on this, but 2 of the 3 picks were from the same team. We talked about Mike Trout and the fact that, he could miss time. That's kind of the going position at the moment because of the birth of his child. And then Anthony Rendon's got the oblique issue. Like, yikes. And you mentioned earlier in the draft, Tatis with the back. Maybe every team just has that now, and I should let it go. But there's even a lot of risk with the hitting when we went that aggressive with it.
Well, and even further to that point, like Suarez had the shoulder issue. So you always kind of wonder, how's a guy truly going to recover with the shoulder? Stanton's always hurt.
Always hurt.
Rizzo's hurt right now. I mean, and again, everybody's going to have some risk, but Howard, that's a lot of risk, I guess. You get those big names, and maybe you say, well, I only need 2 months. I don't need 6 months out of these guys. I just need 2 months. I think what you stated earlier tonight holds so very true. Tell me who's going to be healthy. Tell me who gets the most games from their draft picks. And that's probably one of your top 2 or 3 teams in this league. It's almost that simple.
Yeah, most at bats, most innings pitched. It's probably what you're looking at to build up those counting stats. I mean, here's the thing also is that, baseball players are creatures of habit. So starting spring training, then stopping for a couple of months to start back up here at summer camp right now. I mean, we're seeing also the soft tissue injuries, the stiff back, all of that stuff that we're seeing at the moment right now. Nothing sounds too crazy, too detrimental, but for the same token, also the guys who haven't been experiencing that, are they going to? And could we end up with some sort of a situation? We've spent so much time saying, oh, well, Suarez is going to be healthy now, and we weren't expecting him at the beginning of the season. Yeah, I get that. But for that same token, yeah, then you don't take an Anthony Rizzo who's got, who's had back issues in the past 2 seasons and now all of a sudden experiencing it again.
Mr. Einhorn must have been hearing us, as that's a little birdie on his shoulder. His first pick of this restart in the 11th round is a pitcher. So he gets his third hurler. It's Ian Kennedy. So a couple of relievers. He's got Yu Darvish as his only starter right now. And then you see Bradley in the 9th round, Ian Kennedy in the 11th. Looking at the rest of this 11th round, and again, if you're on the Twitter feed, you can see it come together. But for those listening via Sirius XM satellite radio, you got Matthew Boyd, Carlos Santana, Joe Jimenez. Jake Odorizzi sneaks in there as the 4th selection of this round. Kevin Newman, Lorenzo Cain, Ryan Braun, Sean Doolittle, Yuli Gurriel, Reese Hoskins, Danny Santana, Scott Kingery. Mentioned that we may start to hear some young names. Ray, we get one of those. Jody Ryan, the man who joined us during the break, goes with Kyle Tucker. And a few picks later, Gavin Lux going. Perhaps a pair of Rookie of the Year contenders. Tucker here near the end of the 11th, and Gavin Lux is the first pick of round number 12.
Yeah, I think everyone looks at Lux and thinks he's got a chance to vie for that rookie award. In the case of Tucker, we all believe he can be that player. I think he went 30-30 last year if you add up all his numbers. But where's he going to play? We've already heard the team say, look, it's going to be Josh Reddick in right field to start the year. It's Dusty Baker. We all kind of expected it. We're hoping it would be otherwise. Kind of expected it, though. Maybe this is a scenario where, hey, Yordan Alvarez, maybe he misses a month. Maybe he misses the season. Maybe we're playing into that. But once Alvarez is back, he's obviously playing every day. And at that point, I think Kyle Tucker becomes a 4th outfielder. So I have personally taken him roughly in that spot. Now, again, that was back in January when I was drafting him. So I think a lot has changed. We need some speed on this team. And that's a guy that can steal 20 plus bases in the big leagues. But that's 11th round for a guy that's you're not certain is going to play every day is pretty rich.
Well, check out the pick in round 12. Speaking of speed, Jody follows up with Byron Buxton. So it's kind of wild to see Howard and ignoring of speed early. And then his first 2 picks after the restart are guys who you hope to get at least double-digit steals from.
Well, one guy, yeah, you're trying to get double-digit steals out of Tucker. Did you not just hear what Ray Flowers just said?
If he plays, listen, if he plays 45 games, is that out of the question?
I don't know if it's out of the question or not. I think that's going to be a difficult thing to kind of figure out. Again, Ray and I have, we've watched Dusty out here in San Francisco and how he favors the veterans as opposed to going with the youth. He's also not a guy who's naturally aggressive with giving the green light on the base paths there. So, I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, I think it's good. It's getting a guy like Tucker maybe or Byron Buxton's probably better than grabbing a guy like Malik Smith just because of the deficiencies in the other categories there. But, I think that, you can, you might be able to count on some stolen bases from Buxton. I just don't know about Tucker here. To Ray's point, the rookies, like what rookies are we going to get? Everybody was all in on Dylan Carlson from St. Louis. I'm hearing that it's Bader, O'Neill, and Fowler in the outfield now for the Cardinals there. So I mean, but can
any of those guys hit 240? if any of those, and this goes to the larger question, Howard, of the year, if guys get off to a slow start, will teams be quick to make a move? And fantasy players have to be really quick on slow starts too. If Josh Reddick goes out and hits 170 in the first 15 games, well, if we were in a normal season, Howard, it doesn't matter. He's still playing. But this year, maybe there's a quick change. And fantasy owners have got to realize that they need to almost be changing and altering a team more quickly than the big league teams are because of the limited schedule we have.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, there is no time to wait around to see if a player turns his season around. You can't do that. You have to act fast. And that, that's one of the things that, you think about when you're talking about the waiver wire also. Like, what's going to be available on the waiver wire? How do you, I mean, let's say Buxton is hitting, 172 through the first month of the season. He's not seeing, he's on the field because of his defense, but he's not really doing anything. Can you keep that guy on the roster, assuming that he's going to, turn his season around and have a better second 30 games? Like, that to me is the thing. And maybe that's what a lot of these guys are thinking about also. People are going to have to make quick cuts.
Mm-hmm. And who can emerge really over 60 games? Because again, we're doing 30 rounds tonight. That's 450 players. Now, Ray, even with 450 picks from a lot of bright guys like we've got in this room tonight, there's going to be, I would say, a handful of individuals who at the end of the season make a difference. They go undrafted tonight, but they make a difference. I don't know if we have a ton of those. We may get more of those in 162 games because, you're 5 months later, guys are emerging from AA and all of a sudden they get called up. This year, we don't have that. I mean, it is so short that it's tough for even quote unquote unknown or undrafted players to kind of emerge and make a difference. There's not going to be a whole lot of those guys, I feel, this season.
Yeah, the rosters won't be expanded late, so we won't have that. Earlier on, we have to deal with an issue that we haven't talked about a lot because it's just really unknown. What's going to happen with the players not on the big league roster? Are they just going to play against each other inter-squad games in the morning? I mean, what level of competition is that? How ready will these players be when they're called upon? Will they be called upon? The owners tried to, take every dollar they could from the players, right? Are they going to be willing to fast forward arbitration clocks for some of these young guys? There's a lot of uncertainty. There will be opportunities, of course, because, teams will have to make that decision if they have a struggling player like Josh Reddick or if they have an injury. But the avenues for the youngsters, especially the guys in the minor leagues, the avenues for them to get to the big league level, I think, are as blocked this season as they have been at any time in the recent past.
You can see that we're through 12 rounds now, and some notable names in that 12th round. We talk about speed guys. Malik Smith going as the second pick there in the 12th round. We mentioned Gavin Lux, Byron Buxton, the injured Eduardo Rodriguez selected in this round. One of last year's breakout guys, Mitch Garver. A year ago, nobody was drafting Mitch Garver. This year, they're drafting him. In fact, he's one of the first 5 catchers off the board here tonight. He goes in the 12th round. And also, Howard, the name Yasiel Puig, who, as you look at the board right now, you're going to see Yasiel Puig with an ATL next to his name. That's for the Atlanta Braves. Let us state 2 things, Howard. We aren't totally certain that he's going to be with the Braves, and we appear to be dealing with a COVID issue with Yasiel Puig. That's a 12th round pick. And honestly, Howard, I don't know where he's going to play this year, and I don't know how much he's going to play this year.
Yeah, they're going to need to work some stuff out. I'm hearing that the deal isn't completely dead, that they do need to see what happens with him. If Atlanta does decide, I mean, let's face it, if Atlanta's got a shot at this, they've got a shot at the playoffs, then having a guy like Puig on their team late in the season or in the second half of the year is going to be big for them with Markakis opting out. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to want to put Austin Riley and his cement feet out in the outfield. So, it's a risky pick. Again, you look at that and you say, well, 12th round, there are probably other guys out there who I'd be better served with. I don't hate the pick entirely. I do think that if he gets through this whole thing, the COVID situation, I do think that he becomes a commodity for a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Howard,
go ahead.
Jump in there. I just want a question for you, Howard. Would you rather take Puig in the 12th or Kyle Tucker in the 11th? Who's your team?
Oh, I would definitely take Kyle Tucker. I'd rather take Kyle Tucker than Puig at that point. Okay. He's at least on a team. he will see at bats. I mean, that I'm fine with. I mean, it's if you're looking at some of the names though that go off between that. I mean, do I take Kyle Tucker? Do I take Byron Buxton? Do I take Kyle Tucker? Do I take Lourdes Gurriel? Do I take Kyle Tucker? Do I take Garrett Hampson? Like those guys there, that they're starting, that they're playing. And while Kyle Tucker is definitely an option, I don't necessarily know if I would make that pick. For the same token, you look at Puig. I mean, he takes Adam Eaton afterwards, so Eaton's a guy I would have taken. Brian Reynolds is probably a guy I would have taken before taking Yasiel Puig. Also, I don't love these picks. I mean, if you're going to put them side by side, I'll definitely say that Tucker is a better option than Puig at this point.
Well, and this provides us an opportunity to remind everybody that in this league, you got to have 5 starting outfielders. So do the math, 15 teams, 5 starting outfielders. That's a load of outfielders. I mean, you're talking about 75 guys that are going to be in starting lineups here. And, if you just kind of play the numbers, you mentioned Austin Riley, the 75th outfielder off the board, according to NFBC ADP, is Austin Riley. He's like a starting level outfielder in a league like this. So is, Randall Grichuk. So is Mark Canha. Will Myers is a starting level outfielder in a league like this. So you got to get your outfielders, and you got to get a lot of them. 5 will start. You also have the UT spot. That could be a 6th outfielder. So we shall see. We are through 12 complete rounds, but we're keeping things rolling here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We should also add, you can follow us with a live stream. What is brought to you by our friends over at Fantasy Alarm, Howard's crew. They're bringing us this live stream. So if you'd like to get more interesting back and forth between the 3 of us, you can do that during commercial breaks. We don't take a break via the live stream, but we do take a break here. We're back with more coverage of the NFBC Super League Sprint. We are entering the midway point of this 30-round get-together right here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio.
So, Ray, do you like Kyle Tucker in the 11th more than Puig in the 12th?
I agree with you. Yes. I mean, at this point with Puig, I mean, what if he's still 3 weeks away from even being ready to play anyway? It's like,
well, and who knows what kind of shape he's in.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a definite reach. It's a definite reach. I'm not going to deny that. It's definitely.
Well, then you follow it up with Adam Eaton, who, like, if you get 30 games this year, it'll be a minor miracle, So it's like you got those 2 guys back to back. You may not get 50 games from them. Combined.
And then, Andrew McCutchen goes, like, for me, for my money, I'm taking McCutchen over both those guys without even blinking.
Not even batting an eye.
Yeah. And he goes 10 picks later. It's like, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And
Gurriel's got the side issue too. Who knows if that, we don't know. It could be fine, but there's that. I mean, I don't know.
Well, there you go with Jody Ryan making the batting average, hoping Colton Wong can get hot. I'm going to get some batting average. There's a second starter off the board for Einhorn. Luke Weaver. Any breakout potential?
Last 3 years, has it happened? Yeah.
Like acne?
It kind of has that look. Let's see. We will, looks like we've got, we'll come back with Colton Wong, get a highlight there. It'll be a pretty quick segment here, kind of short. Okay, guys?
Okay.
Yeah, stop droning on, Ray.
Yeah, okay. Do my best.
It is a cool $2,500 to enter this league. It's the NFBC Super League Sprint. You might think, hey, $2,500, that's a lot of money for 60 games. It is. Look at the payoff. It's 20 grand. 20 grand. We got 15 guys all ponying up, and they're trying to win the title. They're trying to bring it home. Let me add, for those who have money leagues, maybe take a cue from the NFBC and certainly from this Super League. Like Howard, even if you finish 3rd here, you at least double your money. If you finish 2nd, you triple your money. Obviously, the most money, the big money goes to the winner, as it should. But I think it's very important for leagues that play for money, that play for cash, that play for that 2nd and 3rd still has a lot on the line. I mean, you can still have a good year or a good investment with your money if you finish 3rd place in this league.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not laying down 2,500 to shoot for 3rd. I mean, I'll
double your money though.
I'll be thankful for it at the end of the season, but I mean, listen, that's, I'm not going to be totally satisfied by that. That's, I mean, listen, let's face it. If you're putting up $2,500 on a season like we're seeing right now, the 2,500, if you don't finish in the top 3, it's not hurting you at all. Apparently you could still make your rent payment or your mortgage payment, or, like you're okay there. So
You think they can survive, huh? You don't think anybody's going to be...
I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, they're not going to be eating ramen noodles by the time October rolls around.
Oh, is that what they had for dinner tonight? Did they do the ramen noodles for the break? Is that
during the break? They brought in some pho. It was great. It was awesome. You heard the highlight from Colton Wong there as we came back. Colton Wong going, we keep coming back to Jody Ryan, but Jody got the speed with Tucker and Buxton. He gets more speed with Wong. He gets some batting average with Wong. He goes here near the end of the 13th. Also a development involving Cardinals. Ray, check it out. At the end of round 13, first pick of round 14, it's the double tap by Scott Fleming, a pair of Cardinal relievers. In effect, trying to get two names out of what is an uncertain situation right now. We see Scott get Giovanni Gallegos, and Ryan Helsley as his picks in round 13 and 14.
Yeah, and this team does not have a closer, so that's technically the first closer. Obviously, I have to hope that Carlos Martinez doesn't get shifted there or Alex Reyes somehow stays healthy and takes the spot. But the top two guys as we do this draft are Gallegos and Helsley with St. Louis. A lot of uncertainty as to how they're going to play it. Grabbing both handcuffing closers is something that people have done in the past and has been done right here.
You got a favorite in that St. Louis bullpen, Howard? You got somebody you'd be selecting for saves this year?
I mean, Gallegos is the guy who I would want, but I mean, I like the fact. I mean, especially with Jordan Hicks opting out, Gallegos and Helsley are the two guys who I think are right in there. I mean, listen, I like the idea. I know we've been talking about stacking off a team and being dangerous, but I actually like the idea of stacking the bullpens like this because of the situation of. We don't know who's going to get mixed and matched and who's going to go, in a different spot. So, to grab both those guys, I think is valuable because, again, I think that we're going to see a lot of setup men and middle relievers go. We've already seen Dustin May go. He's a swing man. He's not a starting pitcher. He's going to pitch, the 2 and 3 innings. He's going to be the guy who's going to end up. That's the dude who's going to be like 8-0 after the first 3 weeks of the season because he's pitched all those points there. But I actually like the stacking of the closers, the handcuffing, so to speak. I think that works.
Still a lot of pitching going. I mean, even
you know what? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I just got word that Giovanni Gallegos was just put on the IL an hour ago.
Okay. Well, there we go. He had not appeared in camp yet. It's been a long, and that's why a lot of people, I'm one of them, have leaned towards Helsley. He's just been there in camp. He's been able to take that job. I mentioned the pitching. Helsley gets us started, and we just see more and more pitching. Check out round 14. Musgrove, Puck, Wheeler, Wood, James, Burns, Bundy. Pitching. These guys are going after it. We are nearing the completion of round 14, 30 total rounds. Take a timeout here. We are back with another hour of the NFBC Super League Sprint right here and only here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio.
Sorry to interrupt you on that one. I thought the Gallegos news was going to be relevant.
Worth mentioning, yeah. No, he's been down in Mexico the whole time, I think. I don't think he's been at this. He just got into St. Louis yesterday, maybe. You mentioned kind of cornering the bullpen, and then you mentioned Dustin May. We got Stripling and Wood too, going to the same team, Team 9. Michael Mager there with Stripling and Wood in 13 and 14.
I'll be right back, fellas.
Okay. Ray has left the live stream, allowing Howard and I a little elbow room.
There we go. Finally, right?
Yeah. Woo! That Flowers
unbelievable.
Guy. Yeah. Man.
I guess Dexter Kitty's looking for some food.
Yeah, gotta feed the cat, feed the lion. Ugh, I don't like this Michael Chavis pick at all.
Is he starting? I thought I heard that Peraza was getting the start.
I mean, that's it. I would take Peraza in that spot before Michael Chavis.
Can I just say I'm rooting for Jody in this one. We've talked about his team so much that's the team I want to win now.
Yeah, it's an off the board strategy. He's doing a lot of different things. It's kind of like he changes his strategy though every 3 rounds. Like he's 3 rounds, this is what I'm going to get, and then the next 3 rounds I'm going to get a load of this, and then the 3 rounds after that I'm going to get a load of this. He's grouping it into like neighborhoods of finding his stats.
Jeez, how about the COVID and on Team 12? Yeah, Austin Meadows, Miguel Sano, Scott Kingery.
Yeah, but they've got antibodies, so
Right,
they're
yeah.
they've already had it. They're over it.
Sure. Because when I get done with the COVID, I am at my best. I am at my peak. I am all over it.
Oh, God, Christian Vasquez. I don't like either of those picks, 14 and 15 there by Simzel. Team 1, Kendrick and Vasquez.
I don't mind. You don't like Kendrick?
I'm okay with Kendrick, but I don't think he's going to. I know people are all excited about what he can do, but it's like, since when did Howie Kendrick become like exciting? Like, the dude's 30, 35, 34.
Mm-hmm.
We know what Howie Kendrick is.
Hits for batting average, plays a ton of positions.
Yeah.
That's it. And I mean, with the DH now, which I guess that's probably something we can discuss when we get back on the air. But I mean, the DH in the NL now kind of opens the door for a number of guys.
Yeah. Let's come back. That's a good place to start. Why don't we try to come back, Ani, with Howie, maybe that home run Kendrick hit last year in the playoffs, either the one at LA or maybe the one against Houston in the World Series. But we'll come back with a Howie. Or no, you're coming back with something else, I think. Okay, we are going to come back with Howie Kendrick. Is Ray with us yet? I don't see him. Oh, Ray's here.
Oh, I see
Ray,
him.
our Twitter, we had like thousands following on Twitter, and you left, and we went to like tens of thousands.
Oh, sorry. No, I put my my Zoom headphones on instead of the headset. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
You're so stupid.
I've been here for the last 90 seconds
dumb.
talking to you guys. I am dumb. You're right.
Oh,
that beard is like sapping your intelligence.
Yeah, pretty much.
What's your mom think of that thing, Ray?
Nah, she doesn't care. Just wants me to be healthy.
My mom loves
it. You don't
it.
look healthy with that beard.
Well, that's true too. Your mom loves it. Tell her thanks, Howard.
No, I don't talk to my mom. That was a self-deprecating mother joke there.
Do you know that Ray Flowers guy? Do you know that character? I like his beard.
My mom does not sound like your great grandmother in Missouri. There, Kyle. Thank you so much.
No, my great grandmother in Missouri sounds like this. Talks way slower.
My great grandma sounds like Eric Stone Street.
Okay, we ready to come back here? You boys ready for one more hour of Twitter streaming greatness?
Let's do it.
Okay. We welcome you back into our third hour of coverage here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We are covering one of the biggies, probably the biggest of big money leagues out there, the NFBC Super League Sprint. Our coverage here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio is available. If you've missed any of our previous 2 hours, you can always hit us up on demand on the SiriusXM app. You can find it there in the Fantasy Drafts folder. You heard the highlight, a great moment of last October, and let's all cross our fingers. Hopefully we get more great moments this October. But Howie Kendrick with one of those home runs that you hit it and you never have to buy a drink in your city again. That is Howie Kendrick. Two biggies, actually, last October when you think about it. And we see Howie Kendrick here, Howard, go in the 14th round, the last pick of the 14th round. I'm not all in on Howie Kendrick. You've got a little more love for Howie Kendrick. He is a guy who 4 months ago, I don't think he's anywhere close to the 14th round in a draft like this. But now with the rule change, the NL having the DH, Howie Kendrick becomes very enticing to a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and we can talk about a number of NL players who are going to start seeing significant playing time after being in potential platoon situations. Howie Kendrick's got that appeal because he qualifies all over the place, outfield, infield, and now with the DH in place and Ryan's and Zimmerman opting out, that puts Howie Kendrick there playing first base, add another position to it for him, and he's going to see regular at-bats. You look at guys in Milwaukee, the question was who was going to play, where was Braun going to play? Was Avisail Garcia going to platoon with him? Who was going to sit there and man first base? And now all of a sudden you've got, that DH just opens things up a lot more. And I think that that's something that that we can kind of bank on. Again, if you're just looking to accumulate at bats, find out who's going to be that guy who either is going to play the super utility role or is going to be able to be the beneficiary of that DH spot.
Yeah, and it opens up so much. And in the case of a guy like Howie Kendrick, who's dealt with health issues, who's an aging player as well. There is a belief that the DH obviously will allow the bat to get in the lineup and all of that, and that can be potentially a huge benefit for some of these guys. It allows players to stay in the lineup. We heard JT Realmuto say he wants to catch 50 games and play more at first base and DH. So maybe some catchers get involved. We discussed earlier in the broadcast the situation with the Braves, and Austin Riley could see work there. Obviously, Yoenis Cespedes is a player that everyone's been talking about in the National League. Can the Mets utilize him on a consistent basis there? Jay Bruce with the Phillies, another guy that people are looking at. And then you look at the Rockies, who just signed Matt Kemp and likely not to have any significant role there. But the Rockies, just like the Reds, seem to have too many offensive players. Now get the opportunity with that designated hitter spot to have another guy in the lineup every day.
You mentioned Cespedes. Here we are, guys, 15 rounds through. Unless I'm missing it, I don't see his name. I'm a little surprised by that. When you have guys like, like a Puig, who we talked about, Will Myers went here in the 15th round. Alex Verdugo, who I think everybody loves the talent, but how healthy is the guy? I'm a little surprised, Howard, to not see someone in this particular draft where taking risk is kind of what these guys are known for. I'm very surprised we don't have a Cespedes call this far.
He's still not running at full speed. What are we getting out of Cespedes right now? He's not fully ready to go. You wonder about Puig with COVID, but these guys are all based, I believe these guys are all based in New York. So they're catching all the local news and all the local papers of what's being said. But, Cespedes at this point right now, it's allowing him to DH and keep that bat in the lineup. But if he's not running the bases in full, how long is it going to take before he actually gets back? I think, if anything, what this is doing is for the Mets, it's helping a guy like JD Davis. And I'm surprised. I don't know if I've seen. Oh, I did see him. JD Davis, he went off in the 10th round there. But it doesn't surprise me really that much with Cespedes.
Matt Adams was released this weekend, and maybe that's a signal from the Mets that they believe that Cespedes will be able to play this year. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. Robinson Cano is back from his issues. We're hearing the team's likely to hit him third. So I don't know what their expectations in-house really are for Cespedes with all the wrestling critters and all the stuff that he's got going on there. At this point,
critters, huh, Ray? The critters?
Well, boars, whatever you want to call them. Wild animals with tusks.
Wrestling.
Yeah, I could just see him in his cowboy hat and his jeans. Yeehaw. It's an easy and obvious, yes, he's in the lineup every day and it's great. But it's been a long time since he's been great. And I agree with Howard. I am not surprised he hasn't been drafted to this point. I wouldn't have been shocked if he was drafted by this point of the draft, but I wouldn't have been the person drafting him by this point.
I mentioned Will Myers, third selection there of the 15th round. San Diego maybe opened a bit of playing time by moving Franchi Cordero to Kansas City, so Myers maybe with a chance to DH a bit more often. Luke Voigt goes in this 15th round. Obviously, he may see some at-bats as a DH. Starlin Castro of the Nationals. We were talking about Kendrick. Maybe Castro gets some DH swings. And also Christian Walker with Arizona. So those are some of the names. You see Jock Peterson as well. He goes in the 16th round. These are some players who could see some at-bats as a DH. Again, we are through 15 full rounds, so halfway home. And as you look at the storylines of this draft, to kind of recap where we have been in the first round, and I've seen a lot of draft boards. I have yet to see Mike Trout go this low anywhere. 14th overall. Howard, I know you do a lot of drafting. Ray, you do a lot of drafting. Have you seen that anywhere? This is by far the lowest I've seen Mike Trout go, with the 14th where he landed tonight.
Yeah, lowest I've ever seen. Even you talk about that rookie year, that first year campaign where he was still going higher than you would think that he should go. So yeah, to see him go 14th here, that's, again, I think that could end up being a huge bargain because, Is he going to miss 2 weeks? Is he going to miss 3 weeks? How about what if he just misses 3 days? I think he's if that's the case, then I mean, man, what a bargain.
The NFBC's got a great tool. We all reference it here on the channel. Their ADP information. You can do searches based upon target dates and all that. And I just pulled it up while we were talking. Since the 1st of May, 80 drafts. The lowest that Trout has gone. By the way, he's gone number 1, so he's still hit that spot. But the lowest he has gone over the last 2+ months is 17th. So there was one draft where he did fall a little bit further than we saw him go tonight.
Mike Trout in the 2nd round, 17th overall. Honestly, he could miss 10 games, and I think he'd still get a payoff there. I really think he could. I mean, would you guys agree with if you get 50 games of Mike Trout being Mike Trout? Isn't he absolutely worth like a late 1st, early 2nd, even with that's almost 2 weeks of baseball, those 10 games, but I'd still take him that high.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to say, I mean, he's averaged missing a month of games the last 3 years. It's not one injury. It's not one since 3 years. Howard, is it nuts to think that there's a chance he doesn't live up to the top 20 production this year?
No, Ray, there is zero chance of that because I believe in him.
Certain our man Howard Tinder.
There is not enough time in this season, Ray, for him to get hurt. I'm sorry. That's just it. If he's got the commitment with the baby, then fine. But it is impossible for Mike Trout to get hurt and lose value. Sorry. End of story. Hashtag scientific fact.
I like it. Works for me, man. It's as good as any science we seem to get these days. So I'm taking it. Elsewhere, we had 5 of the first 13 picks were pitchers. Garrett Cole went off the board at 4. Jacob deGrom at 6. Verlander at 8. Scherzer at 10. And Clevenger at 13. And that team 13 has been a heavy topic of discussion. Howard, you were saying during the break, and for those who've been following us on the live Twitter feed, courtesy of our friends at Fantasy Alarm, you mentioned during the stream there, during one of the commercials, Howard, that you've decided you're rooting on Team 13, Jody Ryan. He's your guy. He's had a lot of different strategies at place. I kind of made the joke that he seems to have a strategy for every 3 picks. Like, I'm going to do this with these 3, and then I'm going to attack this with the next 3, and then the next 3, I'm going to go after this. He's kind of been all over the board with these strategies.
Crazy like a fox or just wishy-washy? Like, that's the question. And there you go. It's we just don't know. So yes, you know what? Jody with this off-the-wall strategy or multiple strategies, so to speak, I'm pushing my chips all in on him. And I'll tell you what, I'll put money on it against both you guys right here, Ray, Kyle. I say $10 that Jody wins this one, hands down, no questions asked, and it's not even contested.
$10. Hey, if we're in the NFBC Super League sprint, $10 don't get it done, Howard. It's got to be at least 1,000
to play. Sure. For me to bet, I'll tell you what.
Side bet, hell
you
no.
want to take care of my COVID salary like that? Sure. I'm making thousands of dollars doing this broadcast. Why not?
Oh, you're not? Ray and I are. Whatever. His first 3 picks were all pitchers. He had the first reliever off the board in the 3rd round. That was Josh Hader. 5 of his first 8 picks were pitchers. He hit a crazy power combo in round 5 and 6 with Aaron Judge and Nelson Cruz. He got Joey Gallo, another absolute slugger, in round 10. He did the speed thing in rounds 11, 12, and 13 with Tucker, Buxton, and Colton Wong. I mean, honestly, Ray, there's a lot going on here with that team, Jody Ryan squad.
There is. And let me ask a question. You take Clevenger and Bieber at the top, as a segment right at the start of the draft we're talking about. We got enough starting pitching here. We're 16 rounds in, and our number 3 SP is AJ Puck. We don't even know what his workload is, and our 4 is Savale. I mean,
is Puck even a starter this year, though?
I don't think at this point he is.
They said they were giving it to him.
It's going to throw 3
but
innings.
Does he last? I mean, what's AJ Puck in terms of? Do you expect double-digit starts from AJ Puck? I'm kind of wary of that number.
No, I'm wary of double-digit starts as well. But give the guy 7-8 starts. Again, this is this is the possibility of Jody looking at this saying, strikeouts galore with Clevenger and Bieber. Hader's going to give him great strikeout numbers as well. He's got his closers, and now he can sit and he can fill in. I mean, he still has another 10 rounds to go, 12 rounds to go in this draft for him. You can start fixing your starting pitching. Grab a couple of swingmen in there. Grab a couple of middle relievers. I think that's a definite great way to do it without having to worry about who your other starting pitchers are for this. If you can get a couple of guys who have good upside, like Savali, like AJ Puck, and you get, you piece together another 4 or 5 of those guys, I don't think it's too terrible of a strategy. Go, Jody.
Ray, I know, Ray, you asked the question, but I'm also going to force you to not only ask the question, but give the answer. Does he have enough pitching?
As of now, no. I don't think he does. And this is this is something that we hear this a lot. If you're going to go pitching early, right? Team forward, Garrett Cole first. Then our second pitcher is Roberto Ozuna, who can't throw off the mound. We don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day. Then we've got Jesus Luzardo, Puck's teammate. He just got back. The A's admit, hey, he's not throwing 5 innings anytime soon. So we got no victories there. We've got Craig Kimbrell, who was a disaster last year. Like you run the risk of I'm going early pitching and then backing off pitching to the point where you kind of give away some of the advantage you have. Now, when we're talking Jody's team, I mean, all these guys are striking out 10, 11, 12 guys per 9 innings. Like, we're going to get huge strikeout totals here. The ratios figure to be very strong. If the closers stay healthy, we're in great shape. Oh, so, I'm just saying that when you invest that heavily, I almost want it to be better. Like, I would have preferred it to be Clevenger, Bieber, and then not 3 closers. Clevenger, Bieber, then grab Blake Snell, grab Patrick Corbin, get that third guy.
Like, go all in if you're going to go that route.
Get that third guy. Because, again, as of right now, Savali's his third starter. And in a 15-team mixed league, that's not close to being good. AJ Puck, for me at least, he's not a top 50 starting pitcher.
How do you know? How do you know that's not close to good in a 60-game season where teams are going to be holding back their starters to 3 or 4 innings through the first couple of turns of the rotation? How do you know that's not good?
If it backs, if a guy like Puck backs into it because everyone else isn't doing it, your point's valid. But if you're starting pitcher and you're not throwing 5 innings, you don't get saves, you don't get wins, you're just this ratio guy. Just go pick up Seth Lugo and Dylan Betances. I mean, there's not a tremendous amount of difference, and that's the issue I have. Well, I'm just saying, in the old days.
Dude's throwing like 92 right now. It looks like he's tossing grapefruits up there.
Well, if they can't hit grapefruits, who cares? That's all that matters. Just so they can't hit them. I got to say, here in round 17, round 17, we see a catcher named Murphy going. How in the hell is it not Sean Murphy? How is it Tom Murphy? How does Tom Murphy of Seattle go before Sean Murphy of Oakland? How's that happen in a 2-catcher league, guys?
I can't answer that question, Kyle.
It's got to be the wrong Murphy.
I have no response.
It should never happen. I mean,
it's like the guy in the Scott Fishbowl draft who took Matt Barkley instead of Saquon Barkley.
So epic.
That's a brutal choice. That's a brutal choice. We are into the 17th round. There's the name Dylan Carlson. So there's another youngster selected. Also the name, Ray, Shogi Akiyama being selected. Craig Gebhard making that call. Akiyama, it's kind of wild to see picks 16 and 17 there by Craig. Shin-Soo Choo and then Shogo Akiyama, couple of OBP guys. I mean, we expect Akiyama to be playing now, and we expect him to get on base in Cincinnati with all those clubbers behind him in that batting lineup.
McCutcheon, too, earlier was another on-base percentage guy for those 3 guys, if we're looking at it that way. And you're right, Akiyama is part of what should be a terrific lineup. It should just be fantastic there with the Reds. And if he can transition what we saw, across the ocean to here, he should be set up to be a big-time run producer. Now, is he going to hit more than 270? Is he going to steal more than 2 or 3 bases? We'll see. But he should be a great table setter and score a ton of runs in that lineup.
Well, the other thing going on there, Howard, I mentioned Akiyama and I mentioned Chu. You've got Cesar Hernandez, who I think right now the feeling is that Cesar Hernandez is probably near the top of the order for the Cleveland Indians. You're starting to see him kind of load up on guys who can get on base or hopefully get on base and score a lot of runs with good teams behind them or good hitting teams behind them. It's a bit of a strategy here. McCutcheon, Hernandez, Chu, and Akiyama, all 4 of those guys, maybe not leadoff guys, but at least like number 2 hitters in their lineup this season.
Yeah, you see it with Trent Grisham over in Team 6. Took him Austin Hayes in the first pick of 17. Yeah, listen, these guys, none of these guys are big burners, but good on base percentage. And again, what you're looking for is you're looking for guys who are going to be in the lineup regularly. If they've got a good on base percentage, that's obviously going to boost you in the counting stats. You're hoping that you're going to get those runs scored. So, I think it's great. I mean, to be able to do that, usually, when you're going after like stolen bases, you're getting runs scored with that. Well, if there are no stolen bases, you still got to find your runs scored somehow. And these are the guys who are going to do it.
Okay, guys, I must be hallucinating. Not only did Tom Murphy go before Sean Murphy, but now Daniel Murphy has gone before Sean Murphy. What the hell? I guess I'm coming off as Mr. Sean Murphy this year. I like the guy. He's a catcher. But it's like, why are those two Murphys? Is Eddie Murphy next, Ray? Is that the next Murphy we see go before Sean Murphy?
Wow. Yeah. I've been watching lots of Chappelle's show. They had that time when they met him and went over and hung out at Prince's house.
Don't change the subject, Ray. Okay. I want to know why Sean Murphy has not been selected and these other Murphys are.
Well, you could like Carson Kelly just went. You could obviously defend Carson Kelly over Sean Murphy. That's fine. Can't defend Tom Murphy, in my opinion. Daniel Murphy, he's a corner infielder. Yeah, he's a corner infielder who hits like a middle infielder at this point. And, DH or not, I don't think we're going to see some huge rebound for him. So I agree with you, Kyle. It's this getting a little strange here.
Where is Sean Murphy? Well, maybe we'll get him in the 18th round. We are into the 18th round. We'll have a full 30 rounds. And again, if you're trying to find the board and kind of see things, best thing to do is just head over to the Twitter feed, courtesy of Fantasy Alarm. We got a live stream going. So you get to see me, you get to see Ray, you get to see Howard, you get to see the board. We will check in on that board. And specifically when we return, got to check in on the defending champ, David Einhorn. Got one starter relatively early. I think it was Yu Darvish. What was it? The 5th round got Yu Darvish. Then went really quiet on starting pitchers. But now as we look into the teens of this draft, we're starting to see him go a lot heavier on starting pitcher. Who are the guys that the defending champ is targeting? We'll tell you next on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Okay.
Well, he's got Herman Marquez, so he automatically loses. He's not repeating this.
Look at that run. Weaver, Musgrove, Marquez, and Tanaka. What do you think of it? That's not brutal. I mean, as your...
No, I mean, I don't mind, Weaver and Tanaka I'm okay with. I'm not a Musgrove guy. Pitches to way too much contact. And Marquez is garbage.
I think Tanaka in the 18th round is a good pick. He should be okay from the head issue. I mean, Marquez, so you get the strikeouts, and then you got to deal with.
Almost had a no-hitter against the Giants last year.
Well, he dominates the Giants. Yeah, I've seen that many times. But I think it's interesting too that we've got a 15th round Nate Pearson, Team 11. That's he could win Rookie of the Year, right? He could miss one start and get called upon. He could make four starts this year. Yeah, that one's pretty aggressive there.
Okay.
Oh, Kyle, something to just kind of mention to people at the tail end is that after we're done here on the broadcast, we're going to leave the live stream running so that people can see the board and how it finishes up.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So we'll take this till 9 Eastern? Will be you, the three of us, and then you're going to keep the board running for everybody to keep watching.
Yeah, so they could just see how those last few rounds go.
Okay, cool. We'll bring it back here. I've got once I find it, what am I looking for? There it is. Okay. I think he's going to have a Murphy read. Okay, you guys ready to rock?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And here we are, middle of the 18th round, and we still don't have Sean Murphy. We still are waiting for Sean Murphy. He didn't get picked while we were gone. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. I plan to pop a bottle of champagne when we see Sean Murphy selected. I just hope he goes out and hits, 290, hits 8 home runs, Ray, drives in 34. 290, like if I said 290, 8 home runs, 34 ribbies, that's the kind of year we're in. Like, that would be awesome. Uh-oh. Breaking news. Leonard Ringel, teammate, Sean Murphy. How about that? That's how they draw it up in radio school, boys.
That's exactly how they do it.
You bring it up.
His number one catcher.
That's how they draw it up, too, in Twitter stream world. That you bring up this subject, and boom, there he goes. Sean Murphy selected middle of the 18th round, one spot behind Joey Votto. Yeah, that Joey Votto. Good to have you back with us on the NFBC Super League Sprint coverage. Elsewhere, and this is for any of our listeners, baseball, football people, whatever you are, we're wondering, do you think you have what it takes to be in the Fantasy Sports Radio's Subscriber Ring of Honor? This is much more prestigious than the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor. Right now, there is nobody in the Ring of Honor for fantasy football and fantasy baseball. How many of the Cowboys got? Probably a dozen, maybe more. We're only letting a few people in this thing. You get a customized championship ring, an on-air appearance, and you also get entry into our Ring of Honor Fantasy Football League. This is all part of our 10-year celebration here on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Tell us why you belong in the Ring of Honor. There's like a variety of different categories that you can enter, and you just say, oh, yeah, I belong in this, and this is why. Go to SiriusXM.com/Ring of Honor. Do it before noon next Saturday, I think July 25th, noon Eastern. For the rules, all the eligibility, how to enter, again, SiriusXM.com/Ring of Honor. Only open to SiriusXM subscribers. No additional purchase is necessary. $2,500 to enter this NFBC Super League Sprint, and it is a true sprint this year. Just 60 games, yet it was no problem at all to get 15 people to fill up this league. And as we were heading to the previous, or I should say wrapping up the previous segment, we wanted to touch on David Einhorn. And David is kind of a legend in this league. He kind of furthered that legend last season by winning this league. And tonight he has said, I'll slow play the starting pitching. Yu Darvish was the 4th round pick. And then, guys, he didn't get another starting pitcher until round 13. Got Luke Weaver. Then he got Joe Musgrove in round 14. German Marquez in round 16. And he just snagged Masahiro Tanaka in round 18. So now he's up to 5 pitchers, Howard Bender. What do you think of that group of arms?
I think his ratios are going to be the worst. 100%. I mean, come on. I don't mind Luke Weaver as a guy to grab and have a decent season. Joe Musgrove pitches to way too much contact. You can't use German Marquez at home. Sorry, folks. He did not figure out cores. And listen, I like Tanaka. Tanaka's a good value to me in the 18th round. But listen, I think that, no matter what you've got, because you don't have closers in Bradley or Kennedy who are guys who are lights out, who are going to help keep your ratios down and stable either. So, if a guy like Musgrove goes out there against the Reds in Cincinnati and goes, an inning and a third and gives up 5 or 6 runs, that's going to be disgusting. And that's going to be something that's going to be not impossible to overcome, but really, really difficult to overcome. Same thing with Marquez. Marquez he starts him once in cores, fireworks start blowing up there. I mean, it could be ugly. Like, again, in a 162 game season, you have plenty of time to recover your ratios. In a 60 game sprint, it's a lot more difficult.
I'm all for waiting on pitchers, but even for me, one starting pitcher in 12 rounds is just not going to get it done. And
remember, that's when everybody else is gobbling up starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, relative to who's available to select, it's even worse. I think if you're going to go this route, and again, I wait on pitching all the time. This is way too aggressive even for me. If you're going to go this route, to speak to what Howard said, I think that the winning move, if you're doing this, is to get 2 closers you feel really good about. Because at least you feel like you're competing there in that category. You'll get the ratios and all that. And Bradley and Kennedy at best are what, mid bottom level twos. I mean, okay, everyone would take him, but you really want him as your third closer, really, or as your second closer behind Hader or one of the elite guys. So I don't like the way the group came together. We've been waiting for Luke Weaver to break out for years. We've been waiting for Musgrove to break out for years. As Howard noted, people thought Marquez was going to break out. Like, it's a lot of wishful thinking to this point, in my opinion.
Elsewhere, as we enter about the midway point of the 19th round, Ray, you were talking about this on the live stream during the commercial. Nate Pearson from Toronto goes in the 15th round. We also see in the 18th round Spencer Howard of Philadelphia. Talk about those two guys, because this is kind of the essence of a 60-game season of we really just have zero idea how much we're going to get from guys like Pearson and Howard. They're high-end prospects. We know they've got talent, but we don't know how a team's going to handle them. And again, that's kind of the story every year, but this year with the 60 games, I mean, there's just nothing to really grab onto. It used to be, hey, the guy's going to be up by June 1st. He'll get you 15 to 20 starts over the course of the year. Now we don't have any of that. We don't know if he's up by September 1st. We don't know if it's August 15th. We have no idea. And then, of course, we don't know how they're going to be used. Bullpen, starter. Like, again, just another crazy factor for us all to kind of figure out in this short 60-game season.
Yeah, we know they're not going to be available for like 6 days in a best-case scenario. And so if you're playing 5 games, that's one start that's lopped off. So instead of making 12 starts, you're making 11. So you have to discount for that. Secondly, we don't know which teams will be aggressive in promoting these young players starting that arbitration clock. We have no idea how they're going to play it. It seems like all the owners are crying poor, so I don't know how willing they're going to be able to do that. Third, we have to consider, and this is a doomsday scenario, but what if the season gets chopped at 30 games? And with the way the playing time works out, these players get credit for a full year of service time. It's catastrophic for an organization. They didn't develop the player at all. They didn't get any production out of the player, yet the player got a full year of service time. So there's a lot of negatives beyond the, hey, should Pearson or Howard be pitching? It's not a talent question here. It's everything else. I'm not surprised we're at that point of the draft. People are taking those opportunities to take guys. I totally understand it. But I think this year there are more risks than normal.
I think Ray is nailing it right there. I mean, it's huge risk because of what's going to happen. Now, I don't know how the agreement went. If they do chop the season at 30, is that considered a year of service time for these guys? I don't know how that, went back and forth there. But yeah, I think that, I'm less inclined to do it. I think that there's going to be enough work on the waiver wire where you're going to see, if somebody gets sick, somebody gets hurt, they've got that 60-player pool to work with there. And, we could end up seeing some AA pitchers. We could see some AAA hitters. Guys, the thing that, we could see is that I think a lot of clubs are going to be more inclined to just going with like some AAA hitter who they're not worried about his service time. The guy's been sitting in the minors for, 6-7 years, and he's still sitting at AAA for the last 3 or 4 with no hope of advancement. That's the guy you want to throw into your lineup there to make sure, because he's at least a seasoned guy, as opposed to some of these youngsters where you do have to worry about, watching the clock. I mean, the battle back and forth between ownership and the players right there. We saw the greed of the owners. And the owners are not going to let, good players get, pulled away from them for service time issues, especially on a season like this where, a lot of the owners didn't even want to play.
Mm-hmm. You start to look at roster construction here, because again, we're about 2/3 of the way through. The selection of Spencer Howard, the kid out of Philadelphia that we're talking about there, it goes to Mike Masoto. Now, you look at Mike's team, and, I guess it's baseball nowadays, but okay, there's talent. We get it. But look at what's been invested in here. It's extremely uncertain, Ray and Howard, as to what you've got here. Jake DeGrom, how healthy is he? Nobody knows. Kenley Jansen, you touched on this earlier, Howard, the fear of this is a guy who does have a pre-existing condition. He's in California. And of course, we've got COVID concerns. So Kenley Jansen's kind of questionable. Julio Urias, we've never seen that guy go a full season. You got Dustin May. What's his role? Dylan Bundy. I mean, the guy is constantly on the IL, off the IL. Then you go Spencer Howard, who you have no idea. And then Keona Kayla here in the 18th round or 19th round. I mean, Kayla is on the IL. I look at that, Howard, and it's scary. Like, that is a rotation that has incredible amount of uncertainty of just getting these guys on the field and having them throw for a full season.
Yeah, listen, it's a huge risk, and it's not necessarily a strategy that I would employ. Again, this is a year where I am much more likely to go with some, veteran arms who, can go the distance, who should go the distance. I know it's great, it's a sexy name in Julio Urias, and be able to get him. But if we know that he's not going to throw more than 3 or 4 innings for his first 2 starts through the rotation, then how much more valuable is he to have? Now, you grab a guy like Dustin May, who, again, he'll be a swingman. Or if somebody gets hurt in the rotation, he's one of the guys who's, going to step up there. But, again, it's kind of funny. A guy like Alex Wood is more appealing to me. A guy like even, Zach Wheeler. The names are Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara going to team 2 in the 18th round. That's a guy who I would rather take the chance on him than a guy who I know is going to be limited.
As we arrive in the 20th round of this big money league, starting to see some of the high-end setup men go off. Of course, these guys might actually be closers at some point this year. Ryan Presley in Houston leads us off in the 20th round. You see Corey Knable's name up there, Seth Lugo. Those all guys going back to back to back in this 20th round. And then one of the hottest names in baseball, or at least in fantasy baseball, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He was just selected. They'll use him as a catcher, but the Rangers are going to use him as a third baseman. Guy that a lot of people are in on because of that position kind of incongruity, if you will, because it's just this guy, you can play him as a catcher, but he's not going to play catcher. It's kind of the best thing you could ever want from your catcher position. As we hit the timeout, we are eagerly anticipating, or at least I am, the upcoming pick from Tom Eschenfelder, who's Team 5. We're going to see Howard and Ray if he can make it 3 consecutive Hudsons.
Tim retired. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll go Ernie Hudson or something. I don't know.
Kate Hudson coming in there for him.
Kate Hudson, yeah. But he's got Daniel Hudson and Dakota Hudson. He's got those 2 Hudsons. We'll see if there's another Hudson to be found in round 20. Stick around for that. It's coming your way on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Oh, Freddie Peralta.
Big arm. Yes, sir.
Dallas Keuchel. Yeah, kind of interesting to see Presley, Knable, and Lugo all go back to back to back.
All in a row, yeah. I was just going to say earlier when Howard was talking about the minor leaguers and, we're going back and forth with that. Like, how many times do we see someone that's hitting 300 with, a 980 OPS get passed over at promotion time for the great prospect who's at 730 because he's the great prospect? Do teams this year just take the guy who's got the 930 OPS? And not because they're worried about the arbitration issue, they're worried about the service time issue with these young players, and it's only 60 games. Do they actually, take a guy that's the one that actually looks good in camp, the one that's doing the extra work and all of that? Is he the player that gets promoted over the guy that's got everything else because, again, service time issues? Well,
and the major problem is you don't really know. We think we know with these teams how they want to handle it and what's important to them. I keep bringing up the case of like San Diego because they got all the prospects and they're a pretty good team. With the playoffs not expanded, it probably kills the argument. But like San Diego may think, hey man, 60 games, if we're hitting and we're pitching, we may not beat the Dodgers, but we can be a wild card team. Right. And we make the postseason. Is Mackenzie Gore going to help us get there? How important is it to a team like San Diego to actually make the playoffs? Even if it's a wild card, do they consider it important? And the issue is all these teams answer that question totally different. So you can't ever say a blanket, this is how they're going to treat the guy because you just don't have any idea.
It's like what I was saying about Dylan Carlson before. I've heard that it's going to be, Bader, O'Neill, and Fowler. The potential only time we're going to see Dylan Carlson is if the Cardinals are in it, at the end.
I would be, they'll do the thing to keep his year of eligibility. So they'll sit him the first year or first week and a half, whatever it is. but I would be surprised if he's not a starting outfielder for them by the end of August. I'd be surprised because those three guys are all.
He's still missing 40% of the season, though, right?
Yeah. So he probably goes too high here. What was he? He was 17th round. Yeah, Lane Thomas they have. Yeah. But I mean, like, dude, Bader can't hit. He just can't. And I don't think Tyler O'Neill could be, it's that these guys who have crazy power. Okay, maybe they start the season going nuts. That's awesome if they do, but he could just as easily start the season hitting 140.
Yeah.
And they
could either be Randall Grichuk or Frazier.
What happens if St. Louis through the first 25 games is 5-20?
Yeah.
Right. Why? I don't want to start the arbitration clock on this kid now. It's a lost year.
Okay, I guess they're taking a break, they say, here in just a pick or so, and we should have David Einhorn with us. So I'll just look for the chat, Ani, and we'll bring him in when we got him. But we'll get rolling here. We welcome you back on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio and via our live stream at SiriusXM Fantasy. It is the NFBC Super League Sprint, and they're making pretty good time. They've just completed the 20th round. It's a total of 30 rounds in this get-together. So we've hit the break, and I think they're going to have another timeout, so we'll maybe visit with some more participants as we take a timeout with them. But the draft board has hit pause in this 20th round. Again, 8th inning guys, Howard. I mentioned Presley, Knebel, Lugo. We also see Blake Trinan selected. We see Freddie Peralta, who's probably out of the bullpen. We also see Tony Watson in San Francisco. All those guys going off in this 20th round.
Doesn't surprise me in the least. I'm telling you. You know what? I'm surprised I haven't seen Aaron Bummer coming off the board yet. I mean, that's a guy who I've been targeting left and right because I just don't think Colomé can hold that job for the White Sox. And I think the White Sox have a great chance to contend based on the schedule, and they could end up with a nice wild card spot. So listen, I think that these are the guys who are going to help you out the most, the Presleys, the Knebels, because these guys and Lugos, these guys could end up getting saves also. These guys could end up, I mean, you look at them, 4 or 5 wins, maybe 4 or 5 saves, good strikeout numbers, low ratios. I mean, if you're going to, augment your roster, your pitching rotation somehow, I mean, I think you could come up with a lot different worse scenarios than these guys.
Ray, you got any favorite 8th inning arms for this 2020 season? Like, I'm sure maybe some of the names were the ones we just mentioned, but are there any names in particular that you're kind of seeking out in drafts you've been a part of?
Yeah, Seth Lugo to me is just now, maybe he starts. We've heard the rumors that he might go longer to support some of the guys like Waka and Matt that have issues going deeper into games. But I really do like Seth Lugo. He was dominant, just flat out dominant in the second half. Will Smith with the Braves, if he's healthy and good to go. We were talking about Mark Melancon earlier, and Will Smith is a better pitcher. Just a matter of who gets the 9th inning role and holds on to it. Ryan Presley has always been one of my favorites. We just mentioned him. He's got the blister issue he's dealing with. Zach Britton obviously is going to get a chance potentially for some saves here early in the season. Keeps the ball on the ground, though. In the case of Britton, it's worth mentioning that in extra innings we're going to have that guy at second base. Does that damage a guy like Britton, a guy who gets batters to beat the ball into the ground over and over again? Is he going to pick up a loss, a blown save, merely because he's doing his job and getting those grounders, but the runner is going to come in from second base on a couple of them?
We touched on the fact that they have hit a break in New York City with the 20 rounds completed, 10 more to go to the finish line, and this gives us a little bit of time to visit with the participants, and we get to visit with one of the more notable participants right now. He is the defending champ in this league. He is David Einhorn with us. I believe David not only kind enough to join us here on the broadcast, but David kind enough to host this get together. So big round of applause for David having the crew in and having some fun on a weekend night. And David, I'm guessing you're having fun too, because you had the 14th pick. And I asked Howard and Ray, none of the three of us, David, have seen a draft where Mike Trout was still available at number 14, but it must be your lucky night. You had to feel, were you shocked to see Mike Trout there at number 14 in the first round?
It was really fun because I really didn't like the 14 draft spot, but then there was Mike Trout. So, if you lose with Mike Trout, you lose with Mike Trout. That's how it goes. It was
David,
pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, I would say so. I was in shock on that. David, I know the strategy last year that was wait on the starting pitching. You took Darvish in the 4th round, and then you left starting pitching completely blank until Luke Weaver in the 13th. But let me ask you, when you look at a situation like last year, you wait on the starting pitching, a couple of bad starts from some potential suspect kind of guys. You've got the time to be able to recover your ratios. You've got the opportunity there. Here in a truncated season where you're, starting pitchers are probably looking at maybe 12 or 13 starts on the top end. Do you think that, that strategy wise, it was viable to go in there with guys who have the potential of getting blown out like Luke Weaver, Joe Musgrove, and Herman Marquez?
I did this last year. And first of all, I actually picked a starting pitcher in the 4th round this year. Last year, I waited 15 full rounds. My thinking here is twofold on starting pitchers. First of all, I'm going to play matchups. So I'm not putting any pitchers in front of any good offenses. And part of the strategy on that is until I got to Tanaka, I don't pick any East pitchers in either division. So I can avoid mostly the Yankees and the Red Sox and all those great Eastern offenses. So I'm going to mix it and match it and try to protect the ERAs and ratios of some of these second-tier starters who I'm really counting on to keep my ratios under control.
I'm talking to David Einhorn, defending champ here. David, I mentioned that, you waited. We've all mentioned you waited on pitching. Did you consider, even though you're waiting on starting pitcher, going stronger in the bullpen? I suggested, hey, if I'm going to wait this long on building my pitching staff, maybe I want to have a couple of guys at the back end better than Bradley and Kennedy. Did you consider going stronger there, or were you happy with those two arms at the top of your relief corps?
It's fine, and then I picked a third reliever, Knebel. I expect to pick another reliever or 2 or 3 over the last 10 picks. I want to be towards the top in saves. I don't particularly care if I'm at the top in strikeouts. So I'm going to have enough saves when it's all said and done, I think.
There's many ways to play 2-catcher leagues, David, and especially when you're a 15-teamer like this one. You grabbed Yasmani Grandal, and then you backed him up with Omar Narvaez. You got to feel pretty good about that duo behind the dish. Talk to us about the strategy this year. 60-game season. Was that the plan going in to get 2 higher-level guys at the catcher spot?
Absolutely. That's the kind of thing you can do when you go soft on starting pitching.
How much has this league changed in, I assume you've been with it all 9 years, David. Has it?
No.
Oh, you haven't? Just
no,
a few years for you?
This is only my third year. The first year, I didn't realize what these guys were doing, and then I adjusted.
And then the second year, you won it. And so the third year, right. What have you learned the most? Yeah, from year 1 to now, what's been the biggest change for you in fantasy baseball that you've changed?
I still think that this league is unique. I think these guys as a league are way too concentrated on wins and strikeouts. Like those are the only 2 categories that matter. And I think it's hugely inefficient. So my goal here was to build up a really big offense, which I think I've done. And then fill in with a decent bullpen and some starting pitchers that they're not going to lead strikeouts, but they should be able to keep my ratios under control.
He was a very quick learner. Again, he won it all in 2019, just his second year. It was a very, very tight race to the finish line in this league. This is going to be fun, 60 games. And I know you come from the investment world. It's a pretty decent return, is it not, David, to have $2,500 and turn it into $20,000 in 2 months by playing fantasy baseball?
This is a hobby, and I just love doing this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm really actually excited to watch baseball on television starting this week because it's really boring watching all the news.
Yeah, we're right there with you, David. It's going to be a fun 60 games. Thank you so much. Good luck over these final 10 rounds. Okay.
Thanks so much.
That is David Einhorn, defending champ. And Howard, I mentioned the tight race. It's kind of crazy. We were talking to Greg Ambrosius a couple of days ago, and of course, Greg is, kind of the behind-the-scenes guy for the NFBC, also in front of the scenes for the NFBC. But Howard, he brought up how close this was, and in a 15-team league, and I think Greg said this, 92 points won this league, that shows you how, you'd have to finish like, I think an average of 9th to get 92, or top 5, top 6 in every category to get to 92 points. Usually you're in like a 15-team league, and Howard, the winner, has like 110 points, if not more. 92 shows you how drawn together and just muddled these 15 owners were a year ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd like to think that that's the case if you're ponying up $5,000 a year.
No one's quitting, no one's quitting
half
in May.
Season. Like, I'm sorry, but there's nobody that's going to sit there and just tank the season or just let it go. You're going to sit there and you're going to scratch and claw, and you're going to do whatever you can. So, when you're playing in a league that's like super competitive and it gets really tight, you don't see that. Bob from accounting is playing in, his work league. Well, guess what? If he's out of it within the first couple of weeks of the season, he's already lost interest. He's had the draft. He's had the water cooler moments at the beginning of the season to talk about how great it is. But, then all of a sudden it's like, well, he's got to take a vacation with his wife, and then he's got to do this, he's got to do that. And he's not paying attention to the league. And you see that in home leagues all the time. You see that in industry leagues also when you've got 15 teams to manage and one of them's just, crap in the bed. So you're like, oh, well, whatever, that one falls to the wayside. This one here, it's 15 guys, and they're ponying up a pretty penny here that, you bet your ass you go out there and you try to, scratch and claw for every point you could possibly get.
20 rounds down, and they're done with the break. The 21st round has begun. You can see it behind us there on the live stream via Twitter. Mike Yastrzemski, he comes off the board. Ray, help me. Is that the first San Francisco Giant hitter to be selected?
I'd have to look to verify.
The 21st round.
Burn!
Well, it might be, and if it is, it's warranted, so I don't have a problem.
Mike Yastrzemski. I mean, even Detroit is getting some guys selected. Like Nico Goodrum went 5 rounds ago. And here's
that's
Mike
the first Giant. Yeah, the only other Giant, I think, is Tony Watson taking the round before. So 2 Giants through 21 rounds. Go Giants.
See, I'd be grabbing Johnny Cueto here, though. I'll tell you what. That's going to be an interesting arm.
He'll come in the 20s, you bet. We will take our final timeout here. When we return, we'll get you some of these final picks. Now, we should note, for those who want to follow the rest of this draft, because they're going to go 30 rounds, we're probably not going to get all of it in, but you can continue to follow the live stream at SiriusXM Fantasy, and we'll leave the board up, and you will be able to see all the picks and kind of piece it together, into these latter rounds. But a timeout here for us, and back to cover more of the NFBC Super League Sprint. It's next on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Yeah, that's pretty rough, Ray.
They're bad. Especially when you mentioned, like you said, the Tigers. Wow.
Yeah, Tigers got guys everywhere, but
guys going in the 11th round.
Okay, we'll be pretty short here at the end.
Mike Yastrzemski.
I mean, and then again, your first Giant wasn't even until the 20th. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, here's the question. You got guys like Crawford and Longoria who, okay, one last hurrah, right?
And they're going to play every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that Carter Keyboom pick. That's a nice grab in the 21st round. I mean, how can you not like that?
Howard apparently didn't.
I guess not.
Oh, I've got him in labor. So I'm pushing the chips in on Kaboom. Who knows what happens though?
I just
he's
think
supposed to be playing third, but is he going to hit?
Well, I got to say, being in St. Louis, I like Wainwright, but I can't see Adam Wainwright in the 21st round. I mean, yuck.
And I was going through waivers and stuff for Tout and Labor and FSGA. Oh, gross. Like, I don't even want to look at those teams right now.
I'm looking at placing bids in the leagues, and it's like, you got $1,000 or whatever, and it's like I'm still going to go like $20. Like I just can't. There's no one. It's like I'm going to put 12 guys at $20 or whatever and just take it. I agree with you, Howard. It's like, ugh.
Oh, it's
okay.
Gross.
Let's get this going. We'll keep it short and sweet. Probably get some overall thoughts from you guys on what we saw tonight. Okay.
Okay.
Good to have you back with us for a few more moments here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Kyle Elfrink, Howard Bender, and Ray Flowers into the 21st round of the NFBC Super League Sprint. What makes this super? Well, it's 15 teams, and they each ponied up $2,500, which I don't know if you guys noticed, but David Einhorn, who, for those who don't, and this is all very public, I'm not throwing anything, but David's a rich dude. He's really rich dude. Like he may have been the richest person I've ever spoken to. Like literally, he's that kind. And he kind of scoffed, did he not, gentlemen? When I said, "Wow, David, you can turn $2,500 into $20,000," and he's like, "Yeah, whatever." Yeah,
get a bologna sandwich too, Kyle. Yeah,
we should have asked him where he brought dinner in from. Apparently, he paid for dinner with all these guys. Right? I mean, where's dinner coming from? Is it coming from McDonald's or is it coming from like Smith and Walensky?
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we'll ask him that next time. But David, great to have him on and great to visit with a few of our participants tonight. We had a few on earlier in the proceedings this evening. I mentioned the 21st round. We're now into round 22. You were talking about Johnny Cueto in the break, Howard. There he is right at the beginning of the 22nd round.
Einhorn grabbed him, right? As if I was throwing the subliminal message to him right off the bat. See, now listen, Cueto, Tanaka, Darvish. There you go. It's a much more intriguing set of three pitchers than Musgrove and Marquez. But wow, I'm still all in on Jody. He's winning this whole league.
Okay, that's where you're planting your flag. How about you, Ray? You pull away from this draft. You look at some of the developments. Obviously, it's a big money league. So, again, these people have some cash on the line. What stands out to you is, through the 21, 22 rounds that we have thus far?
Yeah, I always find it interesting when you have a group of people that have a plan, that know what they're doing, that know the player pool, all those kind of things, how it ends up. Because I almost sometimes look at like 16th, 17th round picks and I'm like, Then I see guys coming off the board in the 20th, 21st round. I'm like, those are guys I'd rather have. So I think it's very vital. We've talked a lot about, as we always do, the top of the draft and how the rosters are coming together at the beginning. I love seeing how people fill out rosters late. And I think that we've got some interesting teams, 14 and 15 right now, 3 straight picks out of the bullpen. That's how or 3 picks out of the pitching staff, excuse me. That's how they're playing it. And there's that trend of pitching. If you look at the board, it's yellow everywhere. It didn't stop. Everywhere we've been, we've seen yellow. It's been really pitcher heavy today.
Quickly from you, Howard, what are you taking away from this Super League get-together?
Pretty much the same thing. I think that, people are not afraid of COVID. They're just saying you got to go forward with it, and just let the chips fall where they may, and that's it. But, yeah, there's a definite, focus on starting pitching early, closers going even earlier than I thought they would.
Josh Hader was the first one off the board in round 3 here tonight. Well, that takes us to the end of the line. I want to thank Ani Sridhar, who's been helping us out all evening long back in the DC studios. Great to have him. Obviously, a huge thank you to both Ray Flowers and Howard Bender. Gentlemen, it's been fun. And doesn't it just feel good to know that like a handful of days from now, we're going to have games. We're all of this will mean something. We'll actually get some fan. We'll actually be able to look at box scores in the morning. It's a great thing, and it's finally here in the summer of 2020. We hope you have enjoyed our coverage of the NFBC Super League Sprint right here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Enjoy the 60-game sprint of baseball this year. Okay, and for those still with us, we get the board gets to stay up, right, Howard? Board staying up all night?
Yep, board will stay up till it's over, and our beautiful images that are sitting across the bottom will be no more.
You'll disappear. Joe Adele going in the 22nd round.
Well,
there's another one.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. You don't know if he's going to play 10 games or if he's going to play 40 games.
Yeah. Well, isn't Goodwin hurt again already?
Yeah. I don't think it's anything.
Madden the other day said he didn't think he was ready, basically, right? But
yeah, he kind of said he could use some seasoning. But that's the other part. They're not really getting any seasoning.
That's exactly.
So we stick here till the top of the hour. People get us for another 5 exciting minutes.
Yeah, say something clever, Kyle.
I don't have
everybody
anything.
out there in Twitter land. Why you hate Twitter so much that you won't?
I don't hate Twitter. I think Twitter is more trouble than it's worth. It is. I'd probably be off the air if I had Twitter. You know the kind of things I say to my friends at midnight, Howard. And this I'd be saying it to.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, those things. I'd be saying it now to my 800,000 plus followers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 800,000. Yeah,
800,000. All tuning in for drunk Kyle at midnight.
It would be really good if he did it. Would love it.
Here's all I find: everybody who's on Twitter gets in trouble for being on Twitter. I mean, even you guys get in trouble for being on Twitter occasionally.
I haven't gotten in trouble for being on Twitter.
There's always a problem on Twitter, though. Rearrange the words.
There's a problem with answering too many questions. Yes, but I make it a very strict point. I do not discuss politics on the Twitter machine. No religion, no politics. Just like standing behind a bar. Doesn't work.
Smart fellow.
Ray doesn't.
One smart fellow. He felt smart.
Nah.
But like you can't even see. I would like to comment on commercials I see. I would like to comment on an article that I read that I thought was funny.
Oh, maybe you should join TikTok and do little videos about it, Kyle. How about
TikTok's for like kids, man.
Oh.
Don't you have to be like under the age of 14 to be on TikTok?
I thought so until Jeff Mans did it. Yeah, I don't know.
No, from all I've seen of TikTok, all you do is lip sync and dance. That's what I've picked.
You can do. That is correct.
I think you can, if you're drafted in the by the NFL, then you have to do a TikTok video as well.
Oh, there's James Karinchak. Don't we have a promo mentioning James Karinchak? I think we got one running on air.
Like to me, like with just Jesse Winker, and I don't know. I'd take Jesse Winker before I took Aaron Hicks. That's me. We had Hicks go in the 19th.
I don't know about
22nd.
Yeah, I kind of like Hicks. I mean, now that, quote unquote, healthy. There's a giant. Man, this guy at the back on the turn. Who is that? David Simsel? Going giant crazy. 3 straight giants.
Mauricio Dubon.
I mean, is that waving the white flag in the 22nd round when you draft 3 consecutive giants?
There's my $2,500.
I have not looked at a single team's 60-man player pool. Therefore, I'll just take the Giants.
Giants. It's one of those inefficiencies in the draft. No one's drafting Giants. I better go get them.
Well, we got Austin Hayes here, too, from the Orioles. I don't think we got a lot of Orioles coming off the board. So second half of this draft is...
Has Chris Davis not been drafted yet?
With a C? I don't think so. And there's
John Means. There it is. It's Baltimore, San Francisco. Wow.
This guy loves all the bad teams. Yeah.
This guy's wiping his butt with 2,500. He's like, 2,500.
I'll show you 2,500. I'm big man on campus. I'm still drafting Giants with 2,500.
Yeah. I'm so rich. I'm only going to draft Orioles and Giants. I might sprinkle in a few Mariners there, maybe a Royal or two.
Got some Marlins too here.
I mean, he's also well, he made sure to get Matthew Boyd on Detroit. Like Matthew Boyd could literally have an ERA of like 1.5 this year and still be 0-9.
Yeah, I was gonna say go 2-8, but yeah.
Did he sneak in any Pirates? Some Pirates would be good for him here. Also.
Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
Here, I got a good one, Howard. This was our question earlier today for our mystery player. It's a very short and sweet clue, but the answer is quite difficult. So do not be embarrassed if you can't get it. Who led the Tigers in home runs last year?
Who led the Tigers in home runs last year?
Who led the Tigers in home runs? I told Ray.
Was it Jacoby Jones?
No.
I got one of the top three, Howard. Only one.
Yeah, even the top three is difficult as to who led.
Nico Goodrum?
Nope.
Wow.
It's brutal. And the worst thing about it, in the year of the home run, the leading Tiger home run hitter had 15 bombs.
Kristen Stewart?
15 homers. Nope.
Oh.
He has not been drafted yet tonight.
Good pull. He's not going to get drafted.
He's not been drafted tonight. Oh, my God.
And Ray's probably right. He won't be drafted.
He's not going to get drafted.
I'm trying to go around the horn here and think, damn.
The team is a total dumpster fire.
It really is. I don't even, I couldn't even
I don't
tell
think
you.
you're going to get
Who was it?
Yeah. It's Brandon Dixon.
Yeah, he's not getting drafted tonight.
Brandon Dixon. 15 home runs that led the team. And who was second, Ray? I'm trying to remember who was second.
Was it Rodriguez?
Oh, Ronnie Rodriguez. Yeah.
And Hicks.
Ronnie Rodriguez was second, and then
Hicks, the catcher first base, John Hicks.
That was the one I got of the three. Yeah,
that makes sense. Ugh,
I don't think any of those guys. Well, none of those guys are starting with the Tigers this year. I don't think none of them. You got Romine and Crone.
And on that note,
gentlemen, it's been a slice of heaven, and here we are at the tail end of the live stream. I mean, we'll keep the board up for everybody watching, but I don't know. I got a poker tournament to go play in now.
We can sign off.
Pack to drink.
Yeah,
I think we can.
You guys ready to throw down?
I do want to shout out Matt Sells, our producer, who has been hanging around here. It's doing all the work, setting up for us. It's going to keep the board running for everybody. So big, huge shout out to Matt Sells of Fantasy Alarm. Fantastic stuff. All on top of the fact that he had a buttload of NASCAR work to do today. So Matt Sells, thank you so much. Appreciate everything that you do.
Jason Page, who's also helped us out at SiriusXM as well. Running the boards tonight. So let's give Jason some props too.
What about that Ani Sridhar character? Should we give him a little shout out here?
A little bit.
We mentioned it. We already mentioned it. Hey, do I get any props, man? I actually found an HD camera.
And a green screen.
Green screen.
It's actually a green cloth. Okay. It's not a screen. Cloth.
Kyle, that is nothing short of amazing there, my friend.
I know. Hey, what I do for a Twitter live stream. There is not a mountain I won't climb. There is not a creek I won't jump across to be a part of this Twitter live stream excitement.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hold up my green screen and do some ironing.
Okay.
And, it's another Saturday night in St. Louis. Okay. We'll see everybody. Have a good night.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Later, Howard.
Ciao.
Later, Kyle. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Okay.